How'd you feel about that?
Oh my God, I am hyped. Oh, it's been 10 years for me, man, covering this team. Never a winning season, 16 total as a fan. And I gotta tell you, man, it feels great. I don't even know how to act, to be honest with you. Like it's different.
Winning is weird, right? When you haven't won, it's weird. And you know what? I'm listening, I'm watching, I'm seeing everything the Kings Nation's going through. Love it. Love it. Light the beam, the chain, everything you guys are doing, the camaraderie you're building. I got to tell you, I didn't see this coming. I didn't see
Probably the
this.
greatest marketing shenanigans we've ever seen because when it first got announced, we were like, oh man, like they're gonna light the beam like twice a year, you know? And it went from like a laughing stock to like the whole league being like, oh yeah, light the beam to like a huge movement. So it was kind of tacky at first, but it really caught on. So whoever made that up, I forget the name of the person, but they really thought this through and they had a vision. And now the Kings, they're executing that on the court on most nights because they have a great winning record right now. So
So in
it,
today's live, I really want to talk about a couple of things. One, I want to talk about the energy and how the Kings play basketball because it's beautiful to watch. I've watched a lot of Kings games, win, lose, draw. As much as I don't like y'all defense, I gotta admit the offense is beautiful, and I didn't think you guys had the personnel to do it. I don't see a Steph Curry on the court. I don't see
right.
Klay Thompson or Kevin Durant or anyone that I considered a superstar going into this season, and suddenly we're talking about De'Aaron Fox being the top clutch closer in the league. We're talking about him in a very different conversation than we were talking about him last year, or at least I am. And Domontas Sabonis, like we are completely talking about him in a different light. We're talking
Right.
about him as a low level MVP candidate for the impact that he's had. So I want to talk about this because you and I are covering completely opposite teams. The frustration and the excitement, it's like we are complete yin and yang because I'm reminded that when I'm watching all of your excitement that I felt this way once too. And I want to bring it back to Toronto. And in order to bring it back to Toronto, we need to recover the roots of what basketball really is. And I think that the way the Kings play basketball goes right back to really age old principles in the game of ball movement. Ball moves faster than the man. Ball moves, passing. Like
That's a
some of the
great
Kings'
point.
offensive sets are so
It's a
beautiful.
great point.
And so I want to talk about the fan experience because, look, man, as a Raptor fan, it hasn't been fun. Even the most optimistic of Raptor fans would tell you this season has been a drag. The arena has been somewhat quiet, deadly, ghostly even. Sometimes
Right.
it's crazy to go to one of those games when the Raptors are getting like pounded by 15 points by a team that they're supposed to beat, and you just close your eyes for a minute and you really don't hear anybody. You hear distinct chatter. You may be hearing someone talking about their dinner plans. Nobody cares. Um, I've been to a few Raptor games, or I've seen at least a few Raptor games where the energy was off the hook, and it's usually when the ball was really humming. So I want to talk about the fan experience of what it is has been like to go to so many Kings games this year because you're someone who actually covers the team and you're there all the time. The energy. I want to talk about Mike Brown, specifically his impact. I want to talk about the movement shooters that you guys brought in the offseason,
Yep.
specifically Kevin Herter, who I was a really big fan of when you guys signed him, and it was when you guys traded for him, and what a great addition. The impact of Domontas Sabonis, the kind of calming presence. I know you probably won't agree with this, but I think Jakob Hertel has Sabonis-esque qualities in terms of calming leadership, presence in the paint and stuff for us. And I just want to talk about how he's kind of made his imprint because you guys made the trade last year. He didn't have a
Mhm.
training camp last year, but this year, how did he come into training camp? How is the camaraderie between him and Fox bled over into the team? How you've managed to play a rookie so many minutes in Keegan Murray while remaining competitive? The role Harrison Barnes has had. You can tell I watched some Kings games. So wherever you want to start this conversation, because ultimately the cue for this conversation is this, right? Is this,
Wow.
and it's Fred VanVleet. I spent most of yesterday's live just going ether on Fred VanVleet, and basically, it. I get what he's saying, but I also want him to acknowledge that the product on the court has been shit. And I think that watching people dribble non superstars dribble the air out of the basketball can be very frustrating. And I want to just read the quote out just for anyone who maybe is seeing this too fast. Quote, the crowd and the city will reflect what we do. Fred VanVleet told the reporters on Tuesday, when we play like shit, the crowd's shit, and vice versa. And when we play our brand of basketball, when we get it going in there, when we got the right energy and spirit, just that winning atmosphere, we can all build around that. It goes the other way sometimes too. The crowd is very anxious. We got to do our part to put together the right type of atmosphere and play the crowd. We'll follow suit. It's a hard place to win when it's going good. Now, Raptor fans have,
He's
in
full
my
of
opinion,
shit. He's full of shit on so many levels. Like I disagree with everything he said. But yeah, go ahead.
what do you disagree with?
Well, as a professional basketball player, you really can't say it there, especially for Raptor fans, because I've watched a lot of Raptor games and even through the TV, like even when they make a run and they're playing like shit, like you can hear that atmosphere. You can hear We the North. And yet for him to have the audacity to say, if we play like shit, the crowd's shit. It's like, no, like, no, it's not. If you do your job, if you play the unselfish brand that you once did, maybe a little bit earlier in your career, they wouldn't be in this predicament in the first place. So to say that the crowd is shit is so off base to me. It's just there's just no accountability on so many levels from top to bottom. So when he
I was
says things
there.
like that, it like
Yeah,
bugs me.
I was there in Jurassic Park, lined up as the Raptors got swept by the Wizards. I was there game three, game two, game four. I stood through the sweep and I cheered my heart out because win, lose, or draw, I could root for a
Exactly.
team that was trying to play the right way. And you can have issues with DeMar DeRozan's defense. You can have an issue with Jonas Valanciunas. You can have an issue with depth. You can have an issue with DeMar Carroll. You can have issues with specific players. But the brand of basketball that the Raptors were playing was together. They were together. At times, it wasn't as together as it was at other times. But the Raptors, DeMar and Kyle going up against LeBron, I mean, one of these things is not like the others, right?
And I would never see DeMar or Kyle ever say things like that. And even De'Aaron Fox, who's had his first 5 years were nothing but losing, he never once said, and look, every game wasn't a sellout when typically the
Oh, our games
Kings,
sell out
right? Exactly my
at
point. So
crazy
like
prices.
exactly, and that's my whole point. So when he says there's shit, I have never heard De'Aaron Fox in his first 5 years when all he knew was losing to say, you know what, we're shit. Kings fans are shit. Like no, like he took accountability. And he was like, if we start winning, this place is gonna be rocking. It's already rocking, but it's gonna be a different element of a different level of rocking. And now it happened. So for him to say that is just a slap in the face to We the North, right? And that's from somebody on the outside looking in. Like that's just a horrendous quote. Like he went from like, oh my god, yay, Van Vliet got this ref, suspended or whatever, to now like, what the hell are you doing?
I mean, sometimes you got to be careful with what you say. I say things all the time where I'm like, "Uh-oh, I put my foot in my mouth there on that one." And I mean, he probably should have known when he was saying this, and I know what he's trying to say.
Sure,
He what he really wants
right,
to say is deeper than this, right? And he's
yeah,
trying to convey it, and
but
he
it
thinks
came across the wrong way.
he's really cute, right? Like yesterday, I was listening to the post game, and he was talking about how, in the context of Andrew Nembhard being an upperclassman who got overlooked, right? So he says, I swear to God, he says, sometimes we get too caught up in what we want guys to be, and we overlook guys who have just been there. And it's like, I know
What you're
that
trying to
you're
say
talking about you
yourself, yeah.
and Scotty and the youth movement and all the dumbass fans who think that this youth and the shiny future is better than the current present. But that's the point. He's going to speak in code. He speaks in code. He speaks about Andrew Nembhard that way. So not to turn this into a
Yep.
five hour diatribe about Fred VanVleet. Moving past Fred VanVleet, I want to talk about good things. And the
Yep.
good things really are the
The
Kings
Kings.
offense and how you guys have managed to do it. So
Right.
look, you and I talked when the Domontas Sabonis trade happened. I'm
Mm-hmm.
on the record. I didn't like it for you guys. I
Yep.
thought Tyrese Halliburton was amazing. You were very for Domas. You've been on that, and you're still on that. And now the public sentiment has shifted from what the hell are the Kings doing to both teams got what they wanted, which I think is pretty fair. Then you guys sign, you draft Keegan Murray.
I'm still on a
Lot
debate.
of,
I'm
pardon?
still on a debate because I just tweeted out and I said that like the whole sentiment league wide is your sentiment. well, both now it's like, oh, both teams got what they wanted.
Oh, that's not my sentiment anymore. We're not going to go into a Tyrese Domas debate because this is going to end up like in you you
It's
screaming
just
at me.
crazy because at the end of the day, if this was the opposite, like if all four players, Buddy, Tyrese, Fox, and Sabonis, like if they were all having the exact seasons individually, but
Hmm.
if you reverse the records, like if they were the number two, number three seed in the East, and we were like number 11th, it would be the narrative would be the Kings malpractice, gave up Tyrese, All Star, and now they're the 11th seed. Like, but because they're the number two, number three seed, now
Yeah,
it's a win-win. So the Kings have always been that low fruit, like that low hanging fruit type of team, and it's
yeah.
okay. But let's be honest, if it was a role reversal, it would be malpractice once again. But now because they're actually good, it's a
Hmm.
win-win. That's bullshit. It's a win Kings win right now. Like
The reason people
we
say it's a
finessed them, if
win-win,
anything, and now it's like we still gotta wait if Tyrese ever wins with the Pacers. And I don't want to hear, oh, he got hurt. Like, no, it is what it is, bro. At the end of the day, everything's result driven. So that same bullshit narrative that they've given the Kings for years,
you know
let's
they're
be
starting two
fair.
rookies, right? You know they're starting two rookies. Like they've had Miles Turner in and out of the lineup. Look, when he's played, they've been decent. I can tell you that the Pacers
They're
with
still
one
not
more
a
draft
playoff
pick,
team. They're still not
they
a playoff team.
they started out a playoff team. You said they
Sure.
would fall out. I said
And
they
they did.
won't, and they did.
And they
And
did.
so you are just right as right. But I will, like I'll tell you right now, if you traded Paolo Banchero right now for Pascal Siakam, if you're the Orlando Magic, you'd get better. You would get way better. You might even make the playoffs. That doesn't mean that it's not a lateral move, and in 3 years it could come back. Look, we'll see. We'll see where
Yeah,
this
but
ends
the
up.
Kings are
Obviously,
young though. Like people
the
are
Kings are
acting like
young. That's true.
Sabonis.
That's
The
true.
Kings are acting like Sabonis was like 30 years old, and I laughed. I'm like, wait, he's a two-time All-Star who was 25 when the move happened.
That's
He's
fair.
26 now, and I'm like, people are
Tyrese, what,
acting
23?
like, yeah. So it's like people are acting like it's like a 30-year-old for a 23-year-old. When the reality is, guys plateau all the time, and
True.
Sabonis still hasn't even hit his actual ceiling because once he continues to work with guys like Lethal Shooter, right,
Hmm.
and his jump shot improves, next year, God forbid injuries,
Yeah.
but his game is going to take even another level because there's so much space on this team, and Keegan's going to take
Right.
like it's just
I
crazy
think
to
I
me.
think this kind of comes down to the decision you guys made really wasn't Sabonis or Halliburton. It was really between Fox and Halliburton, and I was critical of that. But now
So they
Fox is
wanted to trade
amazing.
Fox. No, like for the record, I think if and again, this is why context matters. Obviously, Fox had a max deal.
Mm.
Tyrese was on a rookie deal. So it made a lot of sense for the Pacers to get a guy who they can, hold. Like, there's no guarantee that if they trade for Fox, he stays there, right?
That's
Like,
fair.
I understand that. So, but it's not to say that the Kings, thought Halliburton was better. It was just that, like you and most people, oh, he's on a rookie deal, and there's a lot of upside to it. So I obviously understand that point, but at the end of the day, they made the right move because it really unlocked Fox's other gifts that he would show at times
Hmm.
all 5 years, but they were never maximized. And you and me always talk about raw optimization. They were never maximized because he was playing with guys like Marvin Bagley. So
That's
that's
fair.
why.
And I mean, look at just, I mean, not, yesterday the Raptors broadcaster compared Tyrese to Fred
Jesus Christ.
VanVleet, and I was going to lose my mind.
I
Alvin
was too.
Williams.
But
That's crazy. But
with the black guy, what I loved, he was like, "Stop reaching, Fred. Stop reaching." And I'm like, "Hey, man, pray." What's his name? The analyst.
Alvin Williams?
Yeah, I think so. He was like, "Stop reaching, Fred." It was like towards like the last 2 minutes of the game. He
Yeah. And of
he
course, you
kept
watched the
reaching.
game because you bet the Raptors to
Yeah.
cover. Don't
God,
don't bet the
they've
Raptors to cover
cost me
nine point
like
five.
$1,500 this year.
Yo,
Easy.
you told me that earlier. You said the Raptors cost you so much money this year. I was
Yeah,
Fred VanVleet cost you so much money this year. I was like, don't worry, he cost himself way more
that's
money.
true.
That's
That's
true.
true.
So yesterday we were talking about really like this difference between certain players, and one of the things that I've noticed is Fred VanVleet has been really unlocked by Jakob Poeltl. The screen setting, the passing, the short roll passing, all this, it unlocks everything for him. Obviously, Fred VanVleet nowhere near as dynamic a guard as De'Aaron Fox. De'Aaron Fox, no offense, probably not quite the shooter, deep shooter that Fred VanVleet is, and probably not the defender Fred VanVleet is,
Not
but
yet.
not yet. But
Yeah.
he has all the tools. So I guess what I'm saying is I think the Raptors are almost trying to go in that direction because you look at additions like Jakob Poeltl, Scotty Barnes, OG Anunoby. These are all, weird to say this, Kings style players. As in, they operate in motion offenses, they move the
I,
ball, they're unselfish.
but they
What
don't
I'm
have the point guard. Like without Fox, it just doesn't work. Whether we
exactly,
want to admit, about Sabonis, I'm like, yeah, if you take Fox out of the equation, I don't, and like as dynamic as Fox is, like, and people don't talk about his IQ, but
he's
as
smart.
dynamic as Fox is, and how special he is in the mid range,
Hmm.
like Van Vliet will never be that, like never in his life, because he's not athletically gifted to blow by somebody so fast and just finish at a high rate inside the basket. Like that's why it works. Like it,
I mean, look, the Raptors have one of the worst offenses in the fourth quarter. They're like
sure.
28th, and largely this is led by Fred VanVleet, Pascal Siakam just having horrible. Because obviously, I don't think it's on Scotty because Scotty's been one of those clutch guys in the league. But De'Aaron Fox, the Sacramento Kings, y'all fourth quarter offense is pretty decent, and that's mainly because of Fox being so freaking clutch.
They just get
So,
out the way. I mean,
well,
like
I mean, that's the
just
same thing you could say about John Morant in the play-in situation or in the playoffs. You
yeah.
really can't stop him in a one-on-one situation. He's too quick, and it's in that moment where you can actually reject the screen and actually just clear your defender just with a first step.
And
Not
it
a lot of
works if
guys
you
can
have
stop
shooting
that.
though. And it works if you have shooting, right?
That's exactly it. So the whole thing works on a string. And the thing that I like about the Kings model and what you guys have done specifically is it did not require some Herculean free agent signing,
Mm-hmm.
right? It didn't require, oh my God, Kevin Durant chose them. It didn't require that. It didn't require some massive swing for the hills type of trade where you mortgaged away like 8 future
Picks.
picks,
Yep.
like the Minnesota Timberwolves or the LA Clippers, and you mortgage your entire future on somebody. It didn't require that. What it required was smart roster building. So talk about these pieces that have come in, specifically Monk, Herter. I mean, seriously, if you're a Raptor fan who watches the Kings, you know these guys are awesome. But if you're just a casual fan who doesn't watch any West Coast games, maybe you've only seen the Kings play once or twice this year when the Raptors played them, you don't know how good these guys are. But they've been amazing for you guys. So all of these instrumental pieces, let's talk about them in sequence and what they've added. Let's start with the resident king, Harrison Barnes. How has he provided that steadying leadership?
So he went from, every fan base has a scapegoat. I feel like Harrison Barnes has been that guy for years now because he traded for him when in 19 when they almost made the playoffs. Or, they were as good as it gets in terms of what the Kings have had a success when they have Dave Yeager that last year,
Mm-hmm.
and they traded for him at the deadline, right? The whole famous he was playing on the bench and they told him, and it was kind of embarrassing type of moment for him, but it happened. And now he's been here. He always, has like a good amount of months, I would say. And I would still question him even this year, but I'll be honest, he's been such a steady leader when they've needed him the most. And a lot of it too is because when you have a dynamic passing big like him, when you're able to cut and not just use him in the post like he's been used his entire tenure with the Kings, it changes how he plays where he's not as beat up in the post or when he attacks as much because now
Yep.
you have a guy that's taking all the toll, which again, it might hurt them in the long run with Sabonis getting his butt kicked every night. But it's really opened up a guy like Harrison Barnes on so many ways. So Harrison Barnes has always been like, catch and shoot, high percentage, high efficient player. But if you expect him to be like your second best player, which is what he's, first, second best player, honestly, like the last 3, 4 years,
Yep.
that's not how you maximize
Well,
guys.
it's the lottery expectations, right? You're a seventh
Right.
overall pick. The Raptors were really high on Harrison Barnes. Just an FYI to anyone who
Mm-hmm.
doesn't know this. Before they ended up drafting Terrence Ross, if you ever wondered like how the hell they became so unprepared in that draft, they ended up going with Ross over Andre Drummond. Their real target that year, and I can confirm this, was Harrison Barnes. They wanted Harrison Barnes so badly, and so did I. Actually, I was such a huge fan of his in college, and I expected much more from him as an NBA player. But I guess it's what Fred VanVleet says. It's sometimes we map out expectations on what a guy ought to be, what he's supposed to be, and it's hard to lose sight of that. But what he's become is actually pretty great. So is he like if I say who is the Kings locker
Mm,
room leader, who is
yeah,
that?
for sure. He's Harrison's so methodical, like in the way of he's just so quiet. He's not the rah guy like a Scotty Barnes, who I love, by the way,
Is he kind of
but
like a Thaddeus Young,
he's just
personality
like
wise?
that. He's
Yeah,
just
like an
super
Otto Porter.
quiet, all about his business. He got the nice suit on, and again, he's not a guy who will yell at you. That's going to be like he's just quiet. He does his thing. He's not the defender he once was. Obviously, age does that to you, and being
Yes.
beat up the last 3 years, like I said, being in the paint a lot, that's really hurt him. But there's been moments this year where he'll yak it on you, like he'll use that athleticism when he needs to. Obviously, I think when the playoffs come, and and this is where later on I'll talk about how my perspective on basketball has changed as a whole this year. And Harrison Barnes, though, will be such an X factor for the Kings going into the playoffs that I can't wait to see what he does, because he has that experience. And the last
Hmm.
time he was there, correct me wrong if I'm wrong, he choked big time, right? In that series against Cleveland, where he was like bad. He was missing everything. So now he's gonna have his redemption, so-called redemption
It'll be
with
great to
this
see.
team
It's
as
kind of
an
like how I feel
older
about
guy.
I feel
As
I
an
feel that
older
way.
guy.
I feel that way about Andrew Wiggins. You know,
100%.
like he
He's
got
great.
trolled for years. I never felt it was warranted. I really liked him. I've always liked him. I did not feel that way about Andrew Bennett or Anthony Bennett, sorry.
Yeah, yeah.
But Andrew Wiggins, I feel like, yeah, he's a little inefficient, but he's hella talented, and he didn't deserve all the
So
slander
talented.
of being first overall pick, blah 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 blah. And seeing him dominate last year in the playoffs, being almost like the best player for the Warriors, being
Damn
better
near.
than Jason Tatum in certain games, that was crazy to watch, and it was felt very redemptive. I feel the same way about Markel Fultz right now in
100%.
Orlando. Some of these dudes are just really genuinely good dudes. I think you've been around Andrew Wiggins, you've met him before. He's just such a nice guy, right?
Think
He's
about
just
that draft of Markel real quick. Like guys like Josh Jackson, guys like Lonzo Ball, and we all made fun of like Markel because of the whole, injury. And like
shoulder thing.
that guy is actually the one that's playing at a high level. Like it's
Yes.
insane.
And he's pioneering, such a and look, the Orlando Magic are not a perfect team by any means, but they're
No,
interesting to watch. They are a
very.
very interesting team to watch.
They're not far,
And
because if they make the right moves, which they have the right pieces and draft picks, they can make some noise next year, man. It's just it comes down to what Monty McNair did, roster construction. I think they're a little wacky, but they have guys where they can actually give up and be extremely interesting next season for sure.
absolutely. And one of the things I was noticing was you guys brought in some very unheralded pieces. So let's talk about those guys.
So
Malik
the
Monk.
first, so yeah, so the first move was Malik. Oh, so the first move was the draft, was drafting Keegan Murray.
Hmm.
Obviously, I think we can get into a whole can worm of that because of how I would say my perspective on how you damn near shifted the way I thought about him, like from the beginning to the middle to now. I've like shifted the way the way I think about him now, because I see what he can be in a few years, regardless of how old he is.
Hmm.
So I think that's how I've really changed my perspective on basketball, and that'll be the conversation for later. But they drafted Keegan Murray at 4. They were set on him. They didn't give a crap what people said. It was a 4-player draft, yada yada. They stuck to their guns. They drafted Keegan, and it's worked out very well for them. And then they signed Malik Monk. So obviously, De'Aaron Fox had a huge thing to do with that, being damn near best friends and being like the crazy duo at Kentucky. And now they're doing things very similarly at the highest of levels, right? They've had
Hmm.
games where they've both scored like over 40 points together. So they're very dynamic when they play together. They don't start, and one thing too, where I didn't really like, I saw flashes of his playmaking in Malik Monk, but one can argue that he's the best playmaker on this team. Like if you look at the analytics on B-ball index, he's like 95th percentile playmaking. incredible passer. I mean, an incredible pick and roll pass. I'm like, my God, I mean, that dude just has a feel for the game without looking like he's just phenomenal. And I didn't really see that version of him. I
Hmm.
saw things like that with Anthony Davis. I'm like, well, it's there, right? But he's really accentuated that to a whole different level with the Kings. He has all the freedom to do whatever he wants off the bench. So that's why it makes sense. And after that, they went out and they traded for Kevin Herter,
Yep.
which they gave up that weird situation where it's a protected pick in 2024, 2025 because of the stepping rule. They really couldn't do much damage at the deadline. It kind
Hmm.
of constrained them. But at the same time, you would do that move 1,000 times again because it's really opened up, De'Aaron Fox, Sabonis. So, they were very close to getting Jared I thought if they got Jared Vanderbilt, they'd be in the Western Conference Finals, but they didn't. The Lakers, came in last second and they got the job done, which is weird because
He's been great.
Danny Ainge helped the damn Lakers. But so that was, super close of happening. So they got Keegan, Malik, Kevin. All three of those guys can shoot the ball, right? So
Yep.
that's how you build rosters. Um, the fourth move was what they do after that. Well, those are like the big moves, right? So
Hmm.
I don't know if you want to talk about those three moves in terms of shooting and spacing and how
I want to talk about how you guys have managed to do this with such terrible defenders. Because look, Kevin Herter is not a great defender.
I
You and
told
I
you
have gone
he's
back and
awful.
forth. He's not a great defender. I still think he's way better than Malik Monk, but you probably disagree with that. Uh, I
He
think
is better than
Malik
Malik Monk, but they're
is a
both bad.
turnstile.
They're
Okay,
both bad. But
so
yes,
look, in an age, look, I think defense has fallen off a cliff in the NBA. Period. Right? The Raptors. I mean, honestly, they just surrendered 55% to the Indiana Pacers without Tyrese Halliburton.
right.
And like, what the fuck are you doing on the road at home? Sorry.
Cost me
Defense is
money.
just it's all over the place in the NBA, right? And it partly I think it's because teams don't practice, and offense is being rewarded so much more when it comes to contracts that guys are like, why am I about to bust my ass off, like play my kill myself defensively and have tired legs on offense? I might as well just put up my 25, 28 points because at the end of the day, if I play defense and I lose, then this ain't gonna work, right? So I think I look at it from that perspective and I say, oh my god, that's so funny. The entire chat is going so happy for Leo. You're like you're
That's
like this
funny.
make a wish kid who just, was following this really terrible team for like
I mean,
years and
I
then,
have.
you made a wish. All right. So I guess what I'm trying to say is how has the offense been so good? Because I don't see a top 10 player on your team. There is not a top 10 player. I don't care how much
Yeah,
you rate Fox or whatever. I can name you 10 players better than him. I can name you
100
10 better.
percent,
But you guys are amazing. How is the top
one
offense?
hundred
And
percent.
and, and
It's a
honestly,
great point. It's a
like
great point.
if you and I, okay, let me ask you a question. Going into this season, right? Just let's be 100. Keep it a buck here, right? Going into the season, you don't know anything about how the Raptors season is going to turn out. You don't know anything about the Kings season going to turn out,
Right.
and you had to bet which team was going to win more games.
The Raptors.
Me too. I would have
Yeah.
picked the Raptors by far. And you guys had an all-star level talent in De'Aaron Fox. You had an all-star level talent in Domontas Sabonis. You had a whole bunch of
But it
acquisitions. You had
wasn't by
a
far because
no, I don't think it was by far,
in the
but
preseason when Kenyon had them like 3, I was like, they're more of like a
Raptors.
7. Yeah. I'm like they're more of a 7 and all Raptor fans shit on me. I'm like and like I was being generous because I saw how deep the East was and I was like, I don't know if they're, top 4 or 5. So I'm like they're more of a 7 type of team.
I was pretty much firm that they were going to be 4 or 5.
Yeah,
I
you
think,
were.
yeah, and I think even I went as high as 3, and I went as low as 6. And the year before, when everyone thought they were going to be absolutely horrible, the year Scotty was a rookie,
We
I
all,
had them
yeah.
picking 6th, 7th, and they ended up exceeding
Yeah.
that. So maybe I bought into the I was under last year by a couple picks. Let me go over. But yeah, they've turned out to be kind of worse than anyone could have expected. I don't think anyone saw this coming. And the Kings have been way better. And so I think when I look at the Kings, I'm reminded of the We the North Raptors. Okay. Kyle Lowry, DeMar DeRozan, and then they had Rudy Gay for the
Vasquez.
longest time, and then they traded him ironically to the Kings,
Hmm.
right? and they got back this, and it's lovely that this whole
Patrick
thing ties.
Patterson, Gravis Vasquez.
Yep,
Who who's the third player that was key for them?
Patrick Patterson, Gravis Vasquez, I believe it was Chuck Hayes,
Chuck.
and shit,
It's-
chat, John Salmons, John
John,
Salmons.
that's right. That's my boy.
Yeah,
He got traded
he's
3 times to the Kings.
that was funny, and also like he was supposed to sign with the Raptors, but then I think at the last minute, do you remember the story that God told him not to?
I don't remember that story. That's crazy. We talked
That's
about it the
it's
other day.
we will definitely talk about that at
Yeah.
some point. Nevertheless, these are four guys. They were very what they all have in common. They're all high IQ guys, right? And I
Yep.
mean, you covered these guys. This is kind of
Yep.
like, I mean, this is a really
I
interesting
love
thing.
Gravis. I love Gravis, by the way. He
Grace
was
Vasquez,
huge for you guys. He was huge for you guys.
he was. I found him slightly annoying, to be honest, but I liked him as a player. Like I thought he was a really good player, and you know, you have these guys, and weirdly enough, you know, we've been importing a lot of Spurs guys. We got Wieskamp, Thaddeus Young, Kawhi Leonard, Danny Green, Jakob Poeltl. These are all Spurs guys. They're ex-Spurs. Ironically, the guys that we got from the Kings that year, they were like Spurs guys, in my opinion. You know what I mean? Like they had that Spursy feel. If you know what I mean, you know what I mean. If you're a Spurs fan or someone who's followed the Spurs for a while, you know the type. High IQ, over themselves, you know, good ball skills, good passing, good, you know, good playmaking skills, you know, make the extra
I,
pass, not super
I
ball
would
dominant.
agree. I would agree with like Keegan and Herter being like Spursy type of players. I would say Malik was a risk, but Malik was needed because Fox asked for it. You know what I'm saying? So,
Sabonis is
oh,
a
sure. Obviously,
Spursy type of player, right? Keegan is,
I'm like talking like this season.
oh, for sure. But like
Yeah,
when I look at this
just the
roster,
overall picture. Yes.
yeah, like there's a Spurs model here, and I mean, I think the San Antonio Spurs. I mean, everyone talks about Tim Duncan, but really, I mean, look at how that team was constructed. It was constructed around a great coaching philosophy, great scouting. This is something that every small market team should aim to emulate. And I'm not calling the Toronto Raptors a small market, and I'm not necessarily calling the Kings a small market, but
They're
relative
small
to New
market.
York and
They're small
Miami,
market.
you
Yeah,
are,
they're small market.
you
Yeah.
know. And I think Toronto is like a bigger market, like a bigger market.
Toronto's a huge market. I don't know why people always call them like a small market. I'm like, dude,
I think
Toronto's fucking huge.
it is, and you know,
Which
I
I still
think
have to visit, by the way.
I think it's just outside 8, like the top 8 in the NBA, top 8 media markets. I think Toronto is just right there on that cusp. So when people say it's a small market, I also get beef. I also get really pissed off because it's not
It's
true.
just a different country, but it's a
That's it.
huge market. It's a massive market.
Yeah, but you know, like when you, unfortunately, this sentiment, which I mean, I flashed on yesterday's live. I don't like want to go too deep into it, but did you perchance see this? Like it was, oh, where the hell is it? Or did I pull it off? This
Yes.
thing?
No matter if he's cousin, now y'all blame for
Like
everything.
that, sorry, there was one where he criticized the passport thing. This is like Fred's cousin, and he was talking about like how, you know, the Raptors are lucky to have him or whatever. It's shit, I'm trying to find it. Where the hell is it?
Well, to be honest, like from a guy on the outside looking in, I feel like he's been the biggest reason they haven't met expectations because they took such a leap last year and he took such a leap last year that he has digressed, whether he calls it role change, but the reality is his game digressed because of injuries, age, and just everybody game planning better around him. So those are 3 major things that he don't want to admit, that some fans don't want to admit. I literally was about to comment today on the Raptors, someone on our group, and he was talking about Fred, like how he compared the game from the Mavericks and Warriors. I don't know if you saw this post, and they were like, see, all these stars miss shots. And I'm like, first of all, he's not on that level. Like he was trying to say he was like on Luca, like Steph, like, and I was gonna lose my mind. I was taking a crap, and I'm like, should I go into this guy? I'm like, nah, because it's gonna be like a huge war. But I literally was pissed off. I'm like, bro, stop comparing him to actual stars. He's not. He's a glorified 6 man, bro, on a
He
good, on
is
a
for
very
sure.
good team.
But this idea that the Raptors need to find a different way to build, I think, is something that the Kings obviously realize. Because like, let's just be honest, right? When's the last time the Kings signed a LeBron James level free agent? And how would you, right? There's Los Angeles Lakers, there's the Miami Heat, there's the Dallas Mavericks. There are bigger
Clippers.
market teams, even the Clippers. God, that's a sad thing to say.
Yeah.
There's
Yeah.
there's the Clippers. I mean, shit. I think Orlando's a small market, but like there's the New York Knicks, there's the Brooklyn Nets now. I mean, there's the Toronto Raptors. I mean, and the far,
The Rockets
Phoenix Suns,
because of the
Houston Rockets,
taxes. The
Houston
Suns
Rockets.
are a major market now.
Yes. So I mean, all of these teams, these are the rich teams in the league, and then you have the step down. I think from there you can go into the oh,
Memphis,
what
the
am I talking
Kings.
about? How did I miss Boston? Boston,
Yeah,
because
Boston.
Boston. But then you go there, you go down a step, and you go into the Memphis, the San Antonios,
Yeah.
like the teams that have been good for a while, and then you go into like the basement, which is probably like what's the basement of the NBA? Like I mean, not Portland because I love Portland, but like
It's a good, very good market.
OKC. Like the OKC, like that market is so small, it's almost surprising they have an NBA team, much less
Yeah.
such an exciting one. But a team like that, and so I'm saying like teams at the bottom, you notice they're building very differently than teams at the top. The Lakers, it's just draft picks. Who cares about draft picks? Stars, everything's stars. Fuck it. And in 3 years, when LeBron retires, boom, we'll clear up the fucking cap space and sign the next big star.
They're
That's just
able
how
to
they
do
operate.
shit like that.
Exactly. But if you are a team that is operating outside of those five top media markets, you do have to find a different way to do it. And it usually starts with a brand of basketball. So let's get back to the topic, which is, before I snap on Fred VanVleet's cousin calling out
Yeah.
passports and shit again, and talk about, the specific thing about how the Kings have built this because, like let's be honest, it hasn't been pretty. The last time the Kings were in the playoffs, and this is a fact, Meta World Peace was on your team.
Yes.
That's crazy.
Two
Some people
thousand
don't even
six.
remember that Meta World Peace was on the Kings.
He got traded right that year from the Pacers to the Kings for Peja,
Mm-hmm.
and they really needed to trade Meta, and it was like a last like throw it all in. Like we love Peja, he's been huge for us, but we think we see the upside in Ron Artest, and literally Ron Artest gets there and he's like, I guarantee we'll make the playoffs, and they were like not even close. They went on a huge run with him. Bonzi Wells, remember the Sharif Abdurrahim, which he played for Vancouver. Uh, we had Mike Bibby still, like that was still
Yep.
one of his last years.
Mm-hmm.
Katina Mobley. So it was
Did
such
he
a
showed up out of shape, right? He
yeah, I
showed
think
up
so.
massively out of shape. I remember this. So he played crazy number of minutes for you guys that year. I think he played close to 40 minutes a game for the Kings that year. I could I'll fact check it at some point, but it was crazy. And I remember this story, and I cannot remember who told it to me, but it was someone in the media space about how Ron basically showed up there and said, I'm done with basketball. I'm like, I'm over this, like this Malice in the Palace stuff, whatever. And they were just like, nope, we're gonna play 40 minutes a night. You're gonna be our guy. You're gonna be our minutes leader, and you're just gonna take over everything. And he's just like, okay, I guess. He just did it. I can't remember the exact story, but it was something along the lines of like, I swear I think he was like done with basketball, and he just converted him around. And so he manages to do that, and then of course later on he goes and ends up with the Lakers, and then wins a championship with them.
He went somewhere else before the Lakers, I
He
believe.
did.
I don't
Um,
remember where, but that team with Bonzi and like Ron, there were just a bunch of mishaps, like a bunch of guys that you just put together and you're like, let's just do it. So he got traded mid-season, I believe, at the deadline, and he just went guns blazing. Like Sharif took a different level, and they lost to the Spurs that year. I remember
yeah.
very well because it was the last time that they made the playoffs.
Yep.
But game two, Rick Barry, no Brent Barry, sorry. Um, Brent Barry hits a shot that goes in and out, in and out, and then falls in almost at the buzzer, and they
Hmm.
beat the Kings. Like if that goes 1-1, the Kings win
Yep.
that series. Like it's crazy to say that, but every game was like came down. And Kevin Martin, oh my God! So Kevin Martin hits a buzzer beater, game three or game four, where the ball just goes on the rim, on the rim, on the rim, and then it just falls in with like time ticking, and it's a straight buzzer beater, and
Hmm.
they win that game. So it was just a crazy series. And it's sad as hell to say that that happened 16 years ago in 2006.
I just
Think about
confirmed it.
that.
Ron Artest played Meta World Peace, Meta Stanford. What is his name now? He played 40 minutes per game for y'all, and he played 3 years with the Kings. And then he was traded, I believe, or signed with the Houston Rockets, and then he ended up with the Lakers.
Okay.
So that is the progression, the natural progression of Ron Artest. Nevertheless, that is the last time that the Kings were in the playoffs, and every single year since it has basically been some version of disappointment. Year after year after year after year of top four, top two, top
So
seven,
they
top
try to
eight,
build
top
in
nine
'09.
picks.
I'll just give your audience a little recap. '09, they drafted Tyreek Evans, rookie of the year. I don't know if y'all remember. Steph Curry was in that
Of course.
draft. Brandon Jennings was in that draft. And it was between Jennings, Curry, and Tyreek. Tyreek had that historic 25-5, which only other at the time only four players had done it, which was Oscar Robertson, Michael Jordan, him, and somebody else.
LeBron.
Okay, LeBron. So he did it. It looked super promising because in 2010 they draft Boogie, and I'm like, oh shit, Boogie and Tyreek, sorry. You're like, and Tyreek got hurt year two, so he took a huge step back, which is a huge reason why it didn't work. And then he was never the same after he got hurt. So that happened, and then Boogie took over as like the main player, but then he wasn't the leader. And again, this comes back to the whole conversation, which is leadership. And that's what Mike Brown provides, right? That's what De'Aaron Fox and Sabonis, both of those guys are very quiet guys. Like just like Harrison Barnes, like there isn't like a raw player on this current team that just speaks loud and like is that leader. Like those three guys, Harrison, Fox, and Sabonis, they all lead by example, and they're very quiet. They're very relaxed guys. They don't like the big markets. You know what I mean? Like Fox don't even drink. So like that's my point when I say he's just super chillax type of dude, and he's always said it like I actually love living here and in a city where it's all about basketball. There's no distractions like L.A., like New York, like those type of markets and he
Hmm.
and that's just who he is. So it fits his personality.
Right.
But
Well, that's, I mean,
we don't
that's the
have a like a
greatest thing
yeah
when you get a city that fits the franchise, like that fits the team, right?
yeah
The Detroit Pistons, hard-nosed Motor City, it works, right? It suits the identity of the team. Every iteration of Detroit championship basketball has been the same. It's been gritty, it's been tough, it's been blue collar, and that's how Detroit fans identify themselves, and that's how, look, I'll be honest, that's a little bit closer to how Raptor fans identify themselves. This is not bougie LA. Okay. We got a lot of blue collar people here. And yeah, it's a metropolis and it's a diverse city, and we're probably, we're probably not gonna root for, maybe this is the type of fan base where you would like have some people chirping a LeBron James. Like, Devo grow up, that type of thing. I think that if you wanted to match like a perfect team in NBA history to this fan base, like which team would this fan base go absolutely wild for? Not the Heatles. No, 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 no. The Pistons. '04 Pistons. This fan
hmm
base, Rasheed Wallace screaming at the refs, Ben Wallace blocking shots left, right, and center. This blue collar ragtag, group of people that have been given up on. Yo, this is how this city sees itself. And that identification of lost, forgotten, but not dead and out, still fighting. This idea of, look, Fred VanVleet and Pascal Siakam, their personal story is very much in line with this city's identity. And I think that's a really big part of why those two guys work here or have worked here in the past
have worked here. Yeah.
when they were when they were still that when their story was still on the rise. But now I think they have changed. We have changed. We've all changed. We won a championship. It's not, the insecurity complex is going away a little bit. Some people say, well, No, you guys are still Toronto. You're still an outpost. You know, you're still in another
Mm-hmm.
country. We still got
Mm-hmm.
passport issues, whatever. You guys should be happy with whatever the fuck you got. Some of us are saying, you know what, we can aspire for more. We can aspire for, you know, a true superstar. We can aspire for, you know, championships and the hope of not just winning one in 40 years, like the Leafs or something like that, but actually being consistently in it every single year. And I think
And
that
that's
the
what they have
Spurs,
been.
and look, the Sacramento Kings, 2000, 2002, 2003, 2004, y'all didn't win a championship, but you were in it. The Portland Trailblazers, 1998, I want to
Eight,
say, till about
eight,
2002,
two.
2003, they were in it. The Los Angeles Lakers, they didn't win it every single year. San Antonio Spurs, every single year, they were in it. You know, they didn't win it all the time. They three-peated, whatever, but they were in it. There are teams that were in it. And I'm just saying that this team needs to be in it. The Boston Celtics, the last 4 years, have been in it. You know what I mean? They've
Right.
never like been out of it since Jason Tatum's taken over the reins of that team. They've never been out of it. Like they didn't win, they haven't won a single one, but they're still in it. So I think that this team A wants a winner, and B wants a winner that plays the style of basketball that's in line with them. So how has no, your team doesn't really play lot of defense, but the offense is so beautiful.
But let's talk about that though.
Let's talk about the offense.
Can you highlight certain Forbes? Mike Brown is way better than Nick Nurse, and like let's talk about Mike Brown.
Where's that comment?
It's right after really Fox doesn't drink. I'm a
Ah,
bigger
gotcha,
Fox
gotcha,
fan.
gotcha.
So that's interesting because I'm a huge Nick Nurse fan, right? And I think both Rob and I can attest that we weren't in love with Mike Brown's hiring just because of the historic context of
You were
how
higher
we.
on it than I was.
Right, right, and I wasn't even that high. I'm being completely honest, and I wasn't high because in my mind I was looking at teams like the Celtics, like these other exciting teams that hired like assistants that were younger, that you can build around those guys that have that experience,
Will
being under.
Hardy, guys like
Right.
this. Yeah.
Like guys like that is what I wanted. But then I said 1,000 times, I said, look, maybe Mike Brown, Mark Jackson, like, and Steve Clifford, those were the three finalists. I said maybe these guys are just placements to get us out of this like misery of 16 years. Because these are all guys that have proven it in terms of like at least making the playoffs, right? And Mike Brown's
Mm-hmm.
always been the winner in the regular season. His issue has always been the playoffs. So I said I understand it from that perspective. Like, hey, we need to just break this curse, change some narratives, change the perspective league wide that we're a respectable organization now, and maybe just like Mark Jackson, like he took the Warriors to where he could do it, and then Steve Kerr took him to the next level.
Yep.
That was my train of thought. But then I failed to realize in that whole exchange of 7 years of Mike Brown not being a head coach, that he was learning under Steve Kerr, right? That he was coaching guys like Steph Curry, Klay Thompson, Draymond Green, and how he has really brought that mentality and everything that he believed, like his principles, along with these new, all these positives that he saw and witnessed himself in Golden State.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm like, damn, like he has really applied all of these things because he wasn't known to be this offensive guru. Like he's always been known to have a top 10 defense, a shit offense, right? That's super predictable, just like the Raptors. But it's been the complete opposite. And to be fair, it's been the complete opposite, not because he lost his principles defensively. He still harps on this shit every single press conference, and he calls out all his players like they got to be better, and like we need to be better. So it's not like he's not teaching them these things. It's just that they're so elite offensively that they can get away, and it's crazy to say, they can get away with being the 25th, 26th ranked team in defensive rating when you're the number one team on offense, right? When you're consistently that good. And the key to all this, and this is when I say my perspective has changed,
Mm-hmm.
just like the Kansas City Chiefs in football. And again, this is something that was brought up by somebody else here locally. He said every year we complain about the Chiefs, not playing defense, but they're always great because they have Mahomes and they have a great offense. And this is the reality of things. The Kings in the fourth quarter are a top 10 defensive team. And if you get the right amount of stops when it matters the most, and if
Fair.
your offense is flowing the way it does, right? With
Mm-hmm.
space and game, dribble handoffs, this amazing offense, you're gonna win games, like no matter what. And to the people that think that the game slows down, sure, the game slows down the playoffs, but the Kings half court offense is elite. It's not like they do this in transition all game. Like they're
That's
doing
true.
this in the half court. So whoever thinks it's not gonna translate, they're fucking dumb, because it's gonna translate. Because at the end of the day, this is what they've been doing all season long. And even for someone like me who preaches defense, I'm starting to realize, like, all they got to do is get the right amount of stops in the fourth quarter, and ain't nobody gonna say, well, they won by 15 or they won by 1. All they gonna remember is, did you win or did you lose? And if they get just the right amount of stops, you're going to win these games. And it only works because you have such an elite offense, man. Now, if they were like top 7 to top 10 offensively and still 26 ranked defensively, then the shit wouldn't work. But
Yeah.
they're not.
Yeah, I personally, I've never seen a team that win a championship without a top 10 defense. So if you guys do it,
100%.
if you guys do it, you'll be the
100%.
first ever. Now, that being said, um, to stick on Mike Brown for a minute,
Did the
my
Rockets have a
impression,
top 10 defense real fast when they lost to the Warriors in the Western Conference Finals?
I don't think so.
That's a great point. That's something I wanted to look into, because that team would have won a championship every other year except for that year. So it just comes to show how explosive that offense was. And they ran into like the wrong team, historically speaking.
Yeah, I mean, sometimes that happens, right? Like the Boston Celtics last year, right? They just ran into the wrong team at the wrong time of their season. Same playoff series happens a month prior.
They
Jason Tatum's
probably
not
win.
going through that shoulder thing. They
Yep.
probably win. They have enough poise and talent. It's just sometimes it's health, sometimes it's luck. Raptor fans were really angry at Norman Powell for saying that they got lucky in the finals because
I
Kevin
think he meant
Durant
it
and
like things went the right way for them.
absolutely.
Yeah.
Look, people get angry when people tell the truth. There's
Yeah.
an element of luck involved in everything.
And
Did the Warriors
everything.
get lucky
Hell
that
yeah, they
Jason
did.
Tatum was holding his shoulder like every single? I swear to God, how many heart attacks did Jason Tatum give me in the in the finals?
Bro, the
Like six
Warriors got
times.
lucky. The fact that Steph Curry had ankle injuries from the very beginning, which allowed them to sign him to a 4-year, $48 million contract, which then allowed them to sign KD like 4 years later. Like
Absolutely,
there's an element of luck to all this shit. Like,
absolutely.
what are you talking
Yeah,
about?
because if he was on a max, you wouldn't have been able to afford it. Exactly. And
Exactly.
and they're also lucky that they have such a, a crazy fan base and ownership group that's willing to dig so deep in the luxury tax. I mean, do you remember what they paid for Kelly Oubre? I think the overall cost of a roster with or without Kelly Oubre was something like $88 million in luxury tax bill. Holy shit. Y'all got that kind of money? That's crazy. So look, they built it up right. But Norman Powell's right. An element of luck is involved in everything. But obviously, you're gonna give yourself a much better chance if your defense is solid and your offense is great, or if
Right.
your defense is great and your offense is solid. And in the very rare case, you have dynasties coming up like the Chicago Bulls, the Los Angeles Lakers, where it's both,
Right.
or the San Antonio Spurs, where it's both. You have an anchor on the inside, but you know what I mean. Like once you get the offense cooking like the way you guys do, well, now it's just a swap of like one player who can just one or two players.
It's a system. You
It's a
like
system.
plug and play now.
Absolutely. And I
That's
mean
it.
it's like the Warriors. The Warriors been playing very similar basketball under Steve Kerr for like the last 6-7 years, right? Yeah, Jordan Poole comes in, he's stepping in for somebody.
Mm-hmm.
Kevon Looney, he's stepping in. Like, is he materially that different from what Andrew Bogut was doing? It's not that different, right? So I mean, you'll adjust your system, you'll tinker with it, whatever, but you're not going to have to change it completely. And now you found something that works. The type of players who fit into your system. So this entire offense, I think it starts with the coach. Feel free to
100%.
disagree, but
100%.
I think it starts with the coach, and Nick Nurse has not. So I guess I'll ask you a couple questions, and maybe some quick answers to this would be great. Do you think that Mike Brown is a type of coach who would call out Domontas Sabonis and De'Aaron Fox if they played a game, kind of like how Fred VanVleet played yesterday.
He does every game, bro. And this is when Fox puts up like 30, like on the efficient. This is when Sabonis has a triple double. Like 3 games ago, he was like, yeah, he goes, yeah, they had a good game, like box score wise, but they didn't play that good defense. And I was like, or like, or other game, he was like, they can actually do better. And I was like, he goes, I expect that from them. And I've never heard coaches talk like that about their like cornerstone pieces after they had good games. And I was like, that's the moment when I realized, okay, this mother hover is just a real one. Like, this is how you change the culture when you're unafraid to call your guys. And he's a guy that coached, Tim Duncan as an assistant, right? He's a
Mm-hmm.
guy that's learned from Steve Kerr, from Greg Popovich, and now to your point, he's really brought it all together. To my point earlier, he's really brought all this together, and he has his own voice, like his own swagger. Like he's super, like he has so much swag, it's crazy. And I told you, like the day of the press conference, I was left like, damn, like this guy, if he talks, you listen. And when I was talking to Fox, he's like, he just pushes me to levels that I never thought like that I could be pushed. And you're just like, he just demands so much from you, and he demands so much accountability that you don't really hear it, to be honest, from a lot of other guys. So hell yeah, Mike Brown is definitely coach of the year. And I was wrong. Again, I don't even say that I'm wrong. I felt like he would get them to the playoffs, but to never be this good. You know what I mean? Like this has been an element of surprise. And if we paid attention to what happened with the USA team in the summer against Team Nigeria and how
Mm-hmm.
Team Nigeria beat the US, they were actually playing like this already. Like that's how they beat Team USA, because their motion offense was so beautiful, man. Like it was beautiful to watch.
I agree. And I mean, so you said he wasn't like a great offensive coach coming in. Do you think this is really all the stuff that he's picked up from the Golden State Warriors
Yeah.
that he's implementing for
It's been
for
7 years, bro. Like at some point, you have to realize, like, when the guy gets another chance, and so many guys got so many chances. Like we can name like the Nate McMillans, like all these dudes who got jobs right after they got fired. Luke Walton's trash ass. Like we've seen all these dudes get jobs, and you're just like, I think he was just waiting, learning, learning, learning. And when the opportunity arose, he saw the talent last year when they made the move. He was like, damn, like they got something there. I feel like if I'm a confident coach, I feel like I can elevate these dudes if they give me some shooting. Because
hmm
those two dudes, like Fox and Sabonis, like I told you last year, like Fox is putting up 30 points a game with Sabonis, but they weren't winning games. So see, that's where perceptions change. But they were a top 3 pick and roll team with those two guys, but they had guys like Jeremy Lamb, like something Holiday, not Drew, but the other guy, and they
Justin,
had no
Aaron.
Justin. They had no shooting. So and guys are always lurking around the league, like watching. Mike Brown was watching the whole situation unfold itself. He was like, especially being in Golden State, I can be that guy that elevates these two guys. Obviously, you have to have the cornerstones, and this is why I was so happy, because the Kings finally chose a direction to build around these two guys' strengths, and they brought the right head coach to complement and hold these two guys accountable, which Fox has never been held accountable.
hmm
And now that that's happened, now you have an All NBA guard, which is, for me, I've been saying for 3 years, I've always said I see a top 10 player in the future. Guys laughed at me. I'm like, he needs stability, he needs accountability, and he needs talent around him. All those things happened this year, and now he's an All NBA player. Figure that one out.
How do you think Mike's experience with LeBron has helped him?
They always talk about that too, bro. He always talks about that, and Fox talks about that all the time. He's like, yeah, he talks about coaching Kobe, coaching LeBron. Yes, I'm not LeBron. I'm not that type of leader, but he
hmm
expects us to be. he just said this. He said he expects us to approach the game the exact same way, but lead in our own ways. And I think that's super key, bro.
Um, like, so do you think like okay? So I'm trying to understand like how someone who has been so defensively oriented, because look, there are coaches like this. Like Dwayne Casey is a very defensively oriented coach, right? Always preaching
Mm-hmm.
defense. I'm trying to understand number one how this guy brings people together, and I've listened to Coach Brown talk a lot. Seems like a really good person.
Yeah.
Would you agree with that characterization? He
Great,
seems like a very
great
good
person.
person.
Great person. Fun as hell to be around. Loves to party it up.
And do you think like there's this connection? So like I mean, one of the things that I've noticed with the Kings is just from looking at how they celebrate their success on the court, everyone gets hyped when the guy gets a big
Like the
dunk, but
chain, like
the
when he
chain,
started
the
giving out like defensive player of the game.
yeah, and even the reaction after a win. Sometimes the Raptors win a game, and I got to tell you, the reaction on the players' faces is just kind of like relief, like
Yeah.
thank God, let's get another one, right? There's a sort of tenseness to the Raptors that isn't really there with the Kings. Even when you guys have a bad game, even when you have
Mm-hmm.
like a tough stretch, a couple bad games in a row, it doesn't seem like there's a tension there. So who's really keeping this together? Do you think it's coach keeping the leaders in line,
100%.
or the leaders
100%.
keeping the troops in the line, or yeah?
So Fox just said the other day that coach has given him and Sabonis specifically, the two main leaders of the team,
Mm-hmm.
to delegate practices, when to practice, like so essentially he's given the players a freedom, those two players, and
Mm-hmm.
obviously Fox said there are days where guys don't want to practice as hard or do certain things, and me and Sabonis we have to delegate and be like, okay, we just lost, we lost badly, or we did this wrong. We got to work on this, or we got to run harder. And some guys are opposed to it, but like Mike Brown has given them the freedom to like delegate and choose wisely. But if he has to interfere, he will. And I feel like he's really enabled his players to just be themselves. And like these are things that I haven't really heard from other head coaches, like to give their players a freedom to actually lead, right? To like choose how hard or like when to practice. So it just comes down to the leadership and the culture, because that's the only thing that he would talk about in his press conference was just the culture building that
Mm-hmm.
Mike Brown has brought to this organization. Because he's coached guys like Kobe Bryant, LeBron James, and other great guys like Tim Duncan, Manu, Tony. Like he's been around so much basketball greatness that it was only a matter of time before he really put it all together as a head coach. So I'm just enamored by all the things that he's done, and I can't give him enough credit, man. Like this dude has brought a swagger to this team and accountability that we've never seen in I don't know 20 years. So I'm just jazzed about him. Even when they started off, and again, the Kings are like 1-4, like 0-4, I think. And he was like, "We'll be fine." He was like, "You best believe that." Quote, like never. He said, "You best believe that. We'll be fine." Is that practice? And I was just like, "What the?" Like
Well,
it was
one
crazy.
coach that kind of reminds me of Mike Brown, and I mean this is people, is Leonard Hamilton
Mm,
in Florida State, right?
mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
When I talk to a person who's played for Leonard Hamilton, and I've talked to a
They
couple,
they love him.
they love him. He's hard. He holds
Yep.
you accountable. He doesn't give you shit, but you love him. Um,
He didn't even start Scotty. Like
I
that.
mean,
That's how.
that was due to an injury afterwards. I mean, he wanted to start Scotty initially, but then Scotty needed the bike. He needed to do the Michael Jordan treatment, so he ended up coming off the bench. But nevertheless, he didn't give him anything. He's not like, oh, you
That
5-star recruit, you whatever, but
that.
you're still gonna defend. You're still gonna, and I think, look, all coaches are different. Steve Kerr is different from Mark Jackson. Mark Jackson's different
Yeah.
from Phil Jackson. Phil Jackson's different from Jeff Van Gundy. I think players, in my experience, leading any organization, regardless of how small it was, people will follow you as long as you're consistent, honest, and fair, right?
That's it.
As long as you're fair. They may not agree with your plays. That you might
100%.
fuck up an ATO. You might bench a guy, and maybe that guy's not thrilled about it. But as long as you're clear and you're consistent, I think, and you've been around this league for a while. One of the things that always rubs people the wrong way is when you are not these things, when you're not honest, when you're not consistent. So you definitely want 85% of your roster to play one way, but then there's like a couple of exceptions. Or you definitely preach this shit in the media, but then you don't practice what you preach at all, right? Or you're calling guys out, but then you're not calling out other guys. This to me drives me insane. So you
So
had a
Nick
coach,
Nurse.
right? Exactly. You got exactly where I was driving with
I've been
Homer.
telling you for months. I'm like, this falls back on Nick Nurse. I know you were very hesitant early in the year to call it out, but I was like, bro,
I was.
at the end of the day, he's a guy that allows VanVleet to be fucking VanVleet and be selfish. Like if he wanted to put a stop to it, he would have used the media already to put a stop to it. Yet he hasn't done it, which pisses me off.
For sure. And so like you guys had Luke Walton for a while. You hated it. You hated every second of it. Like
Hated it the moment it happened, and like that
why?
was before giving him a chance.
Was it just the losing? Because look, a lot of people swore he was brilliant. He also is, by the way, an export or an import from the
Mm-hmm,
Warriors,
mm-hmm,
right?
mm-hmm.
Another Steve Kerr protege. You've basically doubled down and done that again. Completely different type of coach. But what was it about Luke Walton specifically that
It was
irked you?
different though. With like when you say double down, it was way different because Mike Brown has had success at the NBA level. Luke Walton has success coaching coaching Steve Kerr's team when Steve Kerr, injured his back or whatever the hell was going on with
They
him.
were like 41-0 or something like that.
Right,
41-1. It was the craziest record. They actually lost more under Kerr. He was like the winningest coach of all time. My point is,
right.
he still coached those games. You can't take that away.
But he was like the developmental coach at that time. Like
Sure. And
his role wasn't to like again, like I think people, fans, including myself, like once you start learning more about coaches' roles, offensive coordinators, defensive coordinators, like that shit matters because me and you can know X and O's to some degree, but in order to teach a fucking offense, that's different. We can regurgitate an offense, be like, well, this happened here, but to actually have your own offense, that's completely different. And we saw that with the Lakers. They were never a good offensive team. They were high in pace, but they were never good. And all those, and again, he had lame duck offensive system. He brought the same shit over to the Kings. The owner of B-Ball Index religiously talked about, and that guy knows X and O's, and he religiously talked about how bad they were. And yet the King Vladi was like, "Oh, I love Luke Walton, whatever, yada yada yada." And it's like, bro, you didn't even do a proper coaching search. So that was the biggest reason why I was so mad. It was because they didn't even do their due diligence. At least this time, they really thought, and Mark Jackson was close, but they actually did a real search. And whether or not they hired Mark or anybody else, at least you
mhm.
got to respect the process of it because that whole Luke Walton shit, I hate to say and like go this way, to me, it was definitely a privilege type of thing. It was like he's a Walton, and I hate to use this shit, but it's true. Like it was definitely white privilege, man. To like so many elements. Stephen A. Smith brought that shit up, and everybody chewed him up for it. But at that time, Luke Walton did not deserve the job. He did not deserve the job. Period. And there were so many other qualified guys, and not just black guys, white guys, right?
Mhm.
And Luke got the job. Like that. Like that made no sense.
Yeah.
I get it. He's a brilliant basketball mind because he was a very good basketball player. He's a Walton. He grew up in basketball royalty. And that's where the privilege comes from and where all these doors open up for him. But at the same time, it's like, bro, do your due diligence.
Hmm.
hire the right guy, at least interview other guys. They didn't do that. They claim they did, but they really didn't because like he was set on Luke, like it was Luke or bust. And it was crazy because his quote was, "We gotta go to the next level." And that was a year where they fired Dave. They had won 39 games, the most they've
Hmm.
ever won in 14
Do you
14 years
think
at the
do you think
time.
Steven Silas is a product of nepotism and privilege?
Mm.
He's a terrible coach. Really great guy, terrible coach. But he's coaching in the NBA. He's probably the worst coach in the NBA.
I think he
That
was
team
given
is
that
abysmal.
job though as an assistant, right? Like, didn't he take over?
I
He
believe
wasn't
so,
necessarily
but
like. I mean, they're gonna fire him. That's not even a
so
question.
I
Like
mean,
he's
look, it's like but here's the thing. I do agree with you. That's the crazy part, right? I do agree with you. The process of no, it's kind of crazy because the Raptors do not operate under the exact same umbrella as some other teams. Our president and leader is black,
yeah.
right? So it's not like white guy hires his golfing buddy to coach his team, and therefore, it's not quite the same. Our leadership is diverse. Bobby Webster may look white. He's not white. You may look white. You're not white.
Yeah.
You're Hispanic. So, I mean, like, there's levels to this, and it's different. But like, there's I guess what I'm trying to say here is um, the privilege element has reared its head a couple times, and whenever it happens, it always stirs someone up. Like for instance, Mark Jackson.
Mhm.
People think Mark Jackson set the baseline for what Warriors basketball is supposed to be.
Yeah.
Um, Accountability, Steph Curry, all that stuff, and then just as that party's getting going, they say, fuck you," and they brought in Steve Kerr, and boom, he's the best coach in the NBA forever. Steve Nash, no fucking coaching experience. First coaching job,
Another situation.
Kevin Durant and
Kyrie.
fucking Kyrie Irving, and that one backfired pretty crazy, and now he looks like a clown who can't coach, which is probably not true. And Mike D'Antoni, time after time after time, try the same system
Mike's a
over and
great
over.
fucking coach. I don't want people
Great
disrespecting
coach,
Mike D'Antoni.
great
He is a
great coach,
great coach.
great coach,
Historically great.
great
Genius.
coach.
Offensive genius.
However, offensive genius or not, great coach or not, a lot of great coaches right now that are sitting at home collecting,
Yeah.
unemployment because no one wants to hire them or whatever because they've not won like 6 7 times or 6 7 stops. Mike D'Antoni has never won a championship. That's not cap. So like he would continue to get shot after shot after shot and good shots. All coaching shots are not equal. Coach, you get to coach Kobe Bryant in his prime. That's a
Well, the
prime.
Rockets suck then. Like if you want to say Silas sucks, like yeah, he might suck, but that team sucks too.
That's fair.
I
But
mean, like let's be
there's a
honest.
there's a better coach on our bench that like sitting in as an assistant than
Sure.
Steven Silas. Is there some element? That's what I'm saying. Like privilege can go a couple ways, and sometimes privilege comes down to nepotism. How I know you, like Andy Routen's Leo Routens. If you know Leo Routens, you're fucking with Andy Routens. I get it.
Mhm.
It happens all the time. Where you see someone's son and you're just like
Happens in all industries.
in all industries. It's not specific to basketball. It's not specific to race.
Yeah,
It's not specific to
100%.
gender. It happens all the time. But you're right. This white thing, every time it happens, Dwayne Casey, right? Dwayne Casey was fucking pissed because he was convinced. He and DeMar were convinced that they were going to bring this thing to a championship and that they were on the cusp every year. And
Yeah.
boom, DeMar's gone and Dwayne Casey's gone, and they hired this guy who's never been a head coach before.
Okay,
They
question
fired
for
the
you though,
coach
real
of the
quick.
year.
Right. Question for you. If if Coach Casey had coached that exact roster, would they have won?
No,
Wow. Okay.
I don't think so. But here's the thing. I was very sure of that before, but I got to tell you, even when I was watching that team play, I was like, so much of Casey is still here, right?
100%. Like that's how I felt.
But you,
But Kawhi made all the
people,
difference
Kawhi makes a difference. Marc Gasol makes a difference.
for sure.
Danny Green makes a difference. You changed the personnel. You didn't give Nick Nurse the exact same roster, and you can't necessarily. So now he gets all the credit. But
Hmm.
all that development now sometimes you get a new car and you're all hype about it.
Hmm.
and you drive it around a couple times and it's still new and it's great. I swear I'm not setting up for our car sponsorship promotion
We
that'll
should
come at
though.
the end.
Yeah.
I should
Yeah.
talk about QAG because that was a perfect segue to that,
Yeah.
but I'm not going to. I'll talk about it at the end. But specifically, and then you realize it's a very uncomfortable car, and then you realize, oh shit, the parts are very
Very
complicated,
expensive.
very expensive replacement part. Oh my god, the mileage is terrible, and it's kind of like uncomfortable to sit in for long drives, and you start to notice things about the car that you didn't notice on the
At
first drive
first.
when everything was really thrilling. Here's something I noticed under Dwayne Casey. Guys really developed.
That's a
Here's something
fact.
else I noticed under Dwayne Casey. Now, this is not cap, and I swear to God, if someone wants to fact check me on this, fact check me on this. Dwayne Casey coached this team through some abysmal waters. And I want to
100%.
say from when it got going, which is 2013, right till when he got fired, which is 2018. Okay, that's a 6 year, 5 year gap. Okay, that's playoff failure after playoff failure, blah, 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 blah. Okay, find the number of times that the Raptors put up a defensive effort that is reminiscent of last night. Fuck last night. They've done this like 30 times this year
Oh,
where they have
yeah.
just come out and just
Yeah.
not defended. And they have way better. That team had DeMar DeRozan, who is a fucking awful defender.
Yeah.
That team had Jonas Valanciunas, who is
Awful.
an awful defender.
Awful.
That team
Awful.
played so many negative defenders. This team is full of rangy, quick. There's no OG and an there was Terrence Ross. You know,
Yeah,
Terrence Ross,
awful defender.
another awful fucking defender who's Terrence Ross and DeMar DeRozan. If I told you had a Terrence Ross and DeMar
That's
DeRozan
crazy.
team, you would
That's
think you're the worst
and
defense
you
ever.
won 50 plus games, like a
Yes.
lot.
So here's the two things. Number one, I never saw a Dwayne Casey team that didn't show up. I don't want to say never, but it happened so rarely that when it happened, it
Hmm.
was like, what the hell was that?
Just happened. Yeah.
They tried. They couldn't. Like DeMar was DeMar. He was going to be inefficient on offense sometimes. He was going to shoot you out of the game
He took
sometimes.
you as far
Fine.
as he could.
He took you as far as he could, and you know
I remember
he
those
had
days.
defensive woes. Kyle Lowry, engine. So you can say that was Kyle because look, that stuck when Kyle was around,
Yep.
even under Casey, even under Nurse. So here's another way to look at it. Coaching is kind of overrated sometimes. Here's another way to look at it. Coaching is very underrated. I don't know which side of the aisle you fall on, but there's a second thing that was there under Dwayne Casey that has gone away. Development. The development and the nurturing of young talent. I
When
don't
you
remember
say
anyone.
coaching, do you mean X and O's or actually or like actually dealing with personalities? Because I think that's most of what a head coach does anyway. Like the whole
I
responsibility of an
think
X and
that
O's. Like you have coordinators for that now.
I think that okay, let's put it this way. You take let's rank out the coaches 1 through 30. Let's say and then let's rank out the leaders in the NBA. A leader being a LeBron, a Jimmy Butler, a Kevin Durant. These guys are going to be your leaders. If they're in your locker
Yeah.
room, they're going to be the guy that everyone looks at, right? Let's say you put a first ranked coach with a 30th ranked team leader versus a 30th ranked coach with a first ranked leader, which team do you think is going to have better direction on a night to night basis?
The team that's well coached. Like even if you
You
take
really
that
think so?
coach away, that team's already built those habits.
I think the best leader, like who? Okay, if I ask you like a player in this league that you think is a great leader, I think Chris Paul is a great leader. Um,
Me too.
who else is a great leader?
I think LeBron's a great leader, even though people talk shit on him.
He can be.
Yeah. I think Joel Embiid's a terrible leader. I think Harden's a bad leader. I think uh I think Jimmy Butler's a fucking great leader.
I
He's a
agree with
top
that.
five leader 1000%.
Okay,
Um,
so you have in the Miami Heat, you know, you have this top five leader, and like you're saying, the Lakers have a top five. I don't agree with the LeBron thing. I think I could be wrong. I've actually never met LeBron. I think the
I
last
think
time I
Draymond's
actually
a
was
great
in
leader.
Really?
I do. They don't win championship without him, and I hate Draymond. I hate him as a person, like the person that argues all the time with referees and belittles them. But then I realize like
I
how
find
important he is
I think
to
Steph's the
that whole
leader.
culture.
I think Steph's the leader of that team, man. I gotta be honest. It all starts with Steph's selflessness, and it extends from there. The year, like I think,
I think he's
fitting
a great
in.
leader too. Right?
Look,
I
Steph,
think they're
Steph
both
Curry.
great
Do
leaders.
you ever hear about Steph Curry and Kevin Durant beef? Never, never happened. You think Steph Curry ever, floated sideways and said, "Hey, I'm kind of being called the second best player on a championship team now. How's this hurting my legacy?" Did he care? No. His priority was winning.
Winning.
I genuinely believe that Steph Curry could win anywhere. He's that type of person. He's that type of leader. I've listened to this guy for hours and hours talk about basketball, and I'm just enamored with his selfless spirit. For a guy who shoots as much as he does and who is considered a chucker coming out of Davidson, the selflessness of how he views his teammates and their success, how much he celebrates them, how much he accepts them. John Morant is under the bus right now in
Sure.
terms of all the controversy. I think he's a fantastic leader. I mean, gun controversy aside, like how he's
He's a
pulling
good
his
shooter,
teammates together,
bro. He's a
his
good shooter.
selflessness, his
Uh,
selflessness. I mean, oh no,
uh,
his selflessness bleeds over. Consider
yeah.
how he gave his
I like him.
most improved player award to a teammate. Like who does that? When have you ever seen someone do that? I've never
I
seen
like
anyone.
him.
I like him too. He's a good
I,
person. He's very
I like him.
misguided, but he's a really good person. And I
Yeah.
feel like he's a really good leader too. He may not always set the right example for his teammates, and he's young. And sometimes you ask someone who's young to do something, and maybe they're not. You ask me him as a leader versus Ben Simmons, Devin Booker. I'll take him 10,000 times out of 10,000. You know. So I look at that and I'm like, I think Kyle Lowry was like a coach here. He
Good
felt like
leader.
a coach. Like he was a
Yeah.
leader, and a coach is a leader, and
You
they're
don't think
leading.
Draymond's a leader though?
I
I
think
think that's
he's. I
pretty
think.
crazy
I
to
think.
say.
I think he's a leader, but I don't
I,
think he's a great leader. And honestly,
okay, that's fair.
one of the
That's
reasons I
fair.
don't think like he can be animated like Joakim Noah, right? Joakim Noah is like he's very animated. He's a spiritual leader, but I think if he's in charge of the direction of your franchise, you're fucked.
Well, I'm not
There
saying
isn't.
he's their best player. I'm just saying like from
No,
a
no, I know that,
leadership, like
but
the engine, like they don't win without Draymond Green, bro.
brains and heart, right? I think Steph is the brains. He's the one who can be calibrated. He's the one who can keep his cool, he keep his composure. I think
Yeah,
sometimes you get
of
it.
course.
You get both in one, right? Sometimes you get both in one. You get your spiritual leader and your intellectual leader in one go, right? You get one player who embodies both. I'm not who Jimmy Butler is a great example of
Brett
one
led
player
his
being
guys to
both.
beat up
He's
that kid.
he's kind of got the brains of it. Like he can push buttons and he can pull people around, whatever. I think Fred and Pascal are, in my opinion, just not leaders. And I think once you take Kyle out of the equation, it takes a little while to simmer through. But then, like to me, your leadership shows up when things aren't going well. Everyone can lead when you're on a 60-win team. Everything's good, and it's how you deal with the losses. It's how you guys keep guys connected. So I'm trying to understand like how have you seen De'Aaron Fox evolve as a leader? Because or sometimes I've talked to coaches who say the best teams coach themselves,
Hmm.
right? But young teams often require a coach like a Mike Brown or a
Hmm.
Dwayne Casey to come in and just keep them together. Dwayne Casey infamously or famously said, "Pound the rock." That was his big thing. That every single day we're going to chisel away at this rock, and it became sort of a mantra, and then it became a meme. But that whole thing, that whole era, was all about accountability. That we are going to control what we're going to control. That's the thing that like when you talk to like when you get in the foxhole with guys about like how did you deal with being down 0-2, like what you talked about with Mike Brown, trust that we're going to be fine, trust that. You need that. You don't need your leader to be panicking. You don't need your leader to be pointing
So
fingers
let
at
me
other
ask you
people.
again: if Casey gets that exact team, you don't think he actually wins it? That's
Casey,
crazy to think of. Like after what you just told me, it sounds like he would have won it, and the Raptors kind of shortchanged him and like didn't give him the right pieces when he needed the right pieces.
here's the thing, maybe, and now this is a crazy thing. Now this is going to sound like a hot take, and I'm sure the chat is going to lose their minds, right? Maybe you win it, but I will say this, and this is just my authentic 1000% opinion. I think you have a much better chance of re-signing Kawhi Leonard if it was
If
Dwayne Casey.
I agree with that, bro. I don't think that's fucking crazy at all.
I think Kawhi, knowing how much I know about Kawhi, and I
About
know a
Kawhi and the whole
lot
Nick
about,
Nurse. Yeah.
it's not just even about him and Nick Nurse, it's about who he is as a person, how he vibes, who he vibes with.
Kawhi's uncle would have vibed with Coach Casey. I tell
That
you that
is
much.
exactly it.
I tell you that
And
much. That much I
yes,
do know.
yeah, and that, you know, so maybe you would have won a championship with Casey, because we have just very, very quickly rushed to the conclusion
Hundred
that you
percent.
couldn't have. And
Hundred
I'm telling
percent.
you that after two
I've been
years
guilty
in
of
this
that shit.
stinky car, 3 years in this stinky car, which has included Tampa, which has included this bullshit, whatever the fuck this year is, and last year, which was at times very frustrating, I can tell you that Nick Nurse honestly warrants a very deep look. Now, he is a brilliant coach. Again, Luke Walton is a brilliant coach. Brilliant at one thing, maybe not so brilliant in other things. It's very different when you're asked to coach a team like that's anchored by Kawhi Leonard, Marc Gasol,
Pascal
Kyle
Siakam
Lowry.
or Pascal
Fuck Pascal
Siakam
Siakam. There's not
and
Pascal Siakam,
Fred
but
Van.
Serge Ibaka. These are
No,
these
no,
are
yeah,
leaders.
yeah, yeah,
These
yeah,
are
yeah.
guys who've been there. They've been to the finals, or
Or
they've
this
been
team, I'm
deep playoff
saying
runs.
that's anchored by Fred VanVleet and Pascal Siakam is what I was saying.
Exactly. So regardless of whether I'm saying Coach Nurse is a good coach or a bad coach, what I'm saying definitely is evidence says over the last 3 years that he's the wrong coach for this team. Number one, I don't think our young guys are developing. Number two, there is not really any accountability. What you described about Coach Brown calling out De'Aaron Fox or calling out Domontas Sabonis, which he definitely should at times, even being very, very blunt and honest
Yeah.
about Rashawn Holmes. Look, the only people I've heard Dwayne Casey, Nick Nurse call out this year, Gary Trent Jr., Precious Achua, Chris Boucher, Scotty Barnes. Low hanging fruit.
Hundred
Second
percent.
year players and bench players. Congratulations.
Congrats.
Call out Thaddeus Young. I never heard that. Oh, I never heard him call out Thaddeus Young for his slip defense. Call out Fred VanVleet. Call out Pascal Siakam. He tried calling out Pascal Siakam once. He benched him, remember? And then Pascal Siakam left the game and whined like a 5-year-old, and then they had to fine him. So look, this happens. I get it, but controlling these egos is a really big part of coaching. Kyle Lowry was massively, and I do mean massively, difficult to deal with when he showed up. Dwayne Casey found a way. He found a way.
And I
He
know the
unlocked him.
analytics, and real quick, I know the analytics fucking love Fred's defense, but I swear to Bob, every fucking time I watch him play, he gets blown by, and part of it's probably the scheme, and part of it is just him getting blown by. That happens way too often for a player who was beloved by analytics. It's fucking crazy to me. Like the guy cannot stay in front of most guys.
I agree. I agree. And
Number Momber, what's his name? Nembard.
yep.
Nembard whooped his ass yesterday.
The very fact that you couldn't even remember Andrew Nembhard's name it just makes this so much funnier. Momber
Nembard.
Nembhard. Okay, that's exactly. Look, but
Nembard.
we talked about him last night like he was fucking Steph Curry. And look, I just want to give a quick shout out to someone that I've been very, very critical of, which is William Liu. Now, someone mentioned in the comments that William Liu ripped this team a new one on his pod last night, and I
He
became
did?
very curious, and I went and I listened to it, and I gotta tell you, the dam has broken. We have won. You got William Liu calling out Fred VanVleet and
He did?
Pascal Siakam. Yes, it
Holy
happened
cow.
on his podcast. It happened. I had tuned this guy out. I was not willing to listen to any more propaganda, but he has returned. And look, from what I hear, and I wasn't a big Will Liu guy when he was coming up, but what I hear, Blake Murphy, these guys, they started out telling it like it is, right? And
They
people
got
respected them
big,
for it.
yeah,
They
and
got big. You get
the
a little bit different.
relationships, yeah.
You get a little bit different. But lately, I've seen a return back to what it is.
I like
And
Blake. Like for the record, like I've met Blake a few times, and like you said, he started off with the ESPN Troop Network with Raptors Republic, and he got super big because he was very consistent in the media, and like you said, maybe he developed, and this tends to happen. I'm not gonna lie, I've been a prisoner of that as well. You start developing relationships, and you're not trying to step over toes,
Mm-hmm.
but if you go back to your roots and you keep it a buck, I think the credibility perspective or standpoint, and then like the people, your audience will respect you tenfold. So
Mm-hmm.
and it sounds like Will and Blake on their pods are starting to do that because sometimes enough is enough.
Exactly. And that's important as hell, right? Like you need to be able to tell people the truth. No one's listening to lies. No one has like 2 hours of their life to listen to lies.
Yeah.
Maybe people don't have 2 hours to listen to someone yell into a microphone for 2 hours too, and I got to learn to adjust on that too. But like definitely, I would prefer like a
E-
bitter truth than to a lie.
Even
And
that guy Chev kind of called out the vets last night. Well, that guy Chev is kind of crazy sometimes, man.
we can't bring him up anymore. I promise. So I made a promise to myself. I'm never bringing him up again because every time I do, he gives me a 27-minute video. I don't want to. I don't want
Jesus
to. I don't want to do this anymore. I'm done. I'm done. I'm ducking it. I'm ducking it. I'm done. I can't listen to any more. I can't listen to any more lies about myself. So I'm done. So, anyways, but to stay on point, um, I think that it's amazing that he did that because he was animated, bro. I
He was
actually.
pissed off.
Oh, he was so pissed off. I'm gonna see if I can. I'm actually gonna pull it up and I'm gonna put it on.
Okay.
I'm gonna play
So
it. I'm
so
gonna play it
go
for you
ahead. Like
guys.
look for it. Look for it while I say this about Nick Nurse. So I've been telling Rob all season long about accountability because I saw that from day one from a guy like Mike Brown who had
Hmm.
just gotten this new team, and I was like, bro, like Fred VanVleet is doing what he wants. Pascal is doing what he wants because this guy is allowing this shit. So when you tell me that guys like Dwayne Casey, who I'm not a huge fan of from an X nose, but now that have really changed my perspective on just being a head coach. Like being a head coach doesn't always mean being the best at X and O's. It means
Hmm.
being a fucking leader and grown men, grown millionaires being able to respect you
Hmm.
and buy into whatever your game plan is. Like all these guys who are brilliant X and O's guys, sometimes they're not real leaders. So I've really shifted my outlook on head coaches, on being a head coach material now, because there's more than just beautiful. And again, it helps when your offense is great and you play the right way.
Hmm.
But sometimes, like Dwayne Casey, just grind shit out, hold your guys accountable, and you'll win games. Like there's different forms of winning games. There's different ways. It just happens
Yeah.
that the Kings play fucking in an entertaining way. But I would say leadership is the most important quality, and maybe it's going to take Nick Nurse to get fired, and then reflect, and then come back even stronger, which is what Mike Brown did.
He's a very smart person. I've
Very
like
smart,
read his book and I've seen a lot from him and I've heard quotes. And he's a very smart person. But being smart doesn't always mean that you
100%.
understand how to coach, like in the NBA. And sometimes, it's just there are coaches in this league who just were blessed with a roster that was very, very good, right? Like when you like one day, if he's ever fired, some stories will come out and people will be like, "What? Okay." It always happens that way,
Yeah,
and we're just gonna keep it. But
you found
here's,
it.
yep,
I don't care. The defensive effort from the Raptors at the start of this game,
here we.
because look, you have a number of guys missing, right? I mean, to be honest, to me, Precious looked like he was going through everything fine in practice, was getting up extra shots up, then gave like a 10-second interview afterwards. Clearly wasn't happy with everything that was going on. Then I was looking across from him. Gary was getting shots up. These guys were looking okay in warm-ups or in terms of at practice on Tuesday. But okay, they're not able to go on Wednesday. Scotty Barnes continues to be out with the wrist injury. That one, I believe. So you got three guys out of the group. And you're like, okay, well, maybe they'll be in tough group because of that. I don't care. The defensive effort from the Raptors at the start of this game was simply terrible. It was so shocking how easily the Pacers are able to just walk into the paint and get straight up layups and just bad defense, bad, team defense, bad communication, bad on-ball defense, bad man-to-man defense. They're coming in, they're losing.
This is a minute later. Still ranting.
Their best player's not in the game. They're coming to a game on the road, and right? Why don't you just communicate on that? It's a simple play. The thing is, the Pacers in the first quarter got it so easy. They didn't even have to run plays. They just had to run the first action of their offense, and boom, the Raptors would pop open. Jakob ripped down a rebound, but all of a sudden, O'Shea Brissett, being smaller and out of position, jumps up, rips the rebound out of his hand.
So, too long didn't read. Will Lou went on like a 10-minute, and he just ripped them. I don't want to play the whole thing because that's not fair. But
he's saying what I told you. Like, what was I texting you? I said, at 4:57, I said, fuck the Raptors if they lose this game. There were 8.5 favorites with no Tyrese. And I was just going on and on and on to you. I think it was to you and Kenny, and I was just like, bro, this is embarrassing. Like, the way they're allowing for a team that's this 6'9", 6'8" long team just getting abused with no Tyrese. I was like, this is embarrassing.
Yo, this is the worst comment ever. And also the best comment ever. I don't know why, but the image of Hasheem Thabeet dribbling the ball, like, it's just hilarious to me that I actually understand where this fan is coming from. Oh my God. Look, I think let's leave the Raptor fans with a hopeful note, right? The Kings have obviously added movement shooters, they've added passers, they've added a coach who holds accountability in high regard, who's straight shooter, tells it like it is.
Yeah.
Where do the Raptors go from here? Look, here's the situation. I'll take a situation, I'll play you a situation. The Raptors have Gary Trent Jr., Fred VanVleet. Both are unrestricted free agents if they opt out, which they undoubtedly will. They have OG.
Can they do a sign and trade or no?
Yes, they can do a sign and trade.
If they opt out?
Yes.
So that's the best case scenario for them then.
Yeah, but in order to do a sign and trade, you have to have another team that's willing to give you something for something they can just get for free. And if they have the cap space, right, then why wouldn't they just sign them? And if they don't have the cap space, then you have to take something back for them. Do you know what I mean? So the only situation there, and I think that Fred VanVleet's market might be smaller than he thinks. I remember Isaiah Thomas. I remember Dennis Schroeder.
Yep.
Now, Fred VanVleet probably thinks that he's well above those two guys because he has an NBA championship. But I'll tell you right now, he is nowhere near the offensive player that Isaiah Thomas was for the Boston Celtics the year that he had his injury. Now, he had a back injury last year. If his season had ended last year and he was entering free agency after the playoff series he had, oh my God, he would be fucked, right? Straight up fucked. He ended that season so terribly, given the fact that he made an all-star team. Now, this year, he started terrible, like the worst ever. Like for 2.5, 3 months, he was honestly one of the worst players starting in the NBA. And then he's just turned it out. And he's, January, February, he's been good. So if he can keep this going, I still think he's overestimating his market massively. I think he's worth
How much do
a
you
lot.
think he'll get paid? You have to guess right now.
I think he'll get 25 from somebody.
Jesus.
25 to 26.
That is fucking ridiculous if he does that.
I agree. But what did Jalen Brunson get? And yes, I think Jalen Brunson is a better player.
Brunson is a good player.
Yes, but can we recalibrate? Brunson was not regarded as a better player than Fred VanVleet going into this offseason, or at least going into mid-season last year. So this is more of a recent thing.
It's not, though, because Jalen Brunson had a good playoffs. And, Jalen Brunson was already regarded to be a starting point guard, being Luka's backup. And now VanVleet's coming off the worst season of his life.
He's played okay lately. By the numbers, he's been okay. But we both agree. So in terms of that, I think 25 is his range. I think if he starts looking at 32 to 35, he's going to end up pissing off a lot of people. One of the comments I made in the live,
he gets 20.
Then why is he opting out? He's already making 20. He wouldn't opt out if he was making 20. His contract this year is over 20. I think it's 22.
I don't think he realizes what the market's going to be for him. I think his agent's going to say, just get out, get a fresh start somewhere else.
It's Clutch. Clutch is his agency, and they tend to get their guys paid. Look, they are willing to do whatever. Clutch is a really I don't know how many of those guys you've dealt with, but I know some stuff about like how they deal with front offices, and it's tough. And look, they bring out the big guns.
Well,
Fred
Fox
VanVleet,
went to Clutch. Like Fox just left his longtime like best friend, agent, and he went to Clutch. Like Clutch is very, very good. You're right, but I also understand that the teams know
they're
Van
good at
Vliet.
getting their guys paid. I sometimes question the means by which they do it in terms of
I
like
agree.
rumors, gossip, all that stuff. And look, this Fred VanVleet press tour, I honestly believe this has a lot to do. Like when he went on JJ Redick, he had I think Roz on national television, basically blasting, explaining like why he's had such a tough season, like explaining to casual fans. Do you know what I mean? Like he's milking every single favor in the holster that he had with every media personality in the NBA to write some favorable piece about him, and he's very good at this. Like, and I see it. I see the whole thing. I'm not stoking any conspiracies. It's exactly how it works, and he's just, he's going to use that. So I think he's going to piss off enough people, and his market is going to shrink. And I really do believe that if he doesn't take the Raptors offer for 25 million, he could be playing for mid level next year.
100% mid level, like 100% mid level.
Yeah,
I really think he gets 18 to 20 if he decides to opt out. Like I
but
really
but
do.
but why would he opt out? He's already making over 20. You think he opts
I think
out
he's tired.
just to
I I
preserve
I,
it,
I
like to
think
get
he's
the longer
tired.
deal?
Yes, I think he's tired of the Raptors organization. I think he feels like he's gotten slated and like he's been in the wrong, and like that's how I feel about Van Vliet. Like when he don't realize that he's taking no accountability at all.
Okay, so you
That
think
he'll bet
he just
he's
opts out and
he's gonna bet on
takes,
himself with like somebody else, pretty much.
and you think
Even
that
even if it's a 1 year deal, he's gonna that's just what he does. Like he's gonna bet on himself.
okay. So, given the fact that they have the situation where Fred and Gary are free agents, and I personally, I've come around on Gary. I know you're not a fan. I wasn't a fan last year. I am a fan now. I like him a lot more.
Sign and trade, and get
I would
like
like
a
to keep him. So that's where I'm at with Gary. And when with OG, I want him extended, and Pascal, like I could go
trade his ass.
either way. I'd probably trade him, but I can go. So what? Two things. Number one is Nurse be the head coach next year? And if not him, then who? Who are some names that you would think, based on your contacts around the league and you just knowing coaches and stuff and people you've met, fit this roster? Number two, naturally the assumption there is that the Raptors would go younger. They would build more around Scotty and OG, and what coach sort of fits that mantra and mentality. Because like if Jason Kidd was available, something like that, he had a track record with Giannis. He was a big playmaker. He's a perfect coach for Scotty, that kind of thing. The second thing is, like, what players do you think that may be available next year in free agency or on the trade market or whatever? Do you think when you're watching the Raptors, oh, they could really use that type or that specific player?
I'm trying to think
Coach?
of a coach that's in college that I really liked. I think last year, and this was before the whole the incident where he hit the coach and Juwan Howard. But and even somebody like Penny, bro, like Penny Hardaway, Juwan Howard, like
Really?
like those guys.
I don't. Mm.
Yeah, I feel like they've been there, they've done that. They can hold guys accountable if they get to that level. I think guys like Scotty Barnes would gravitate towards those type of players that play hard for him, and those guys will understand like, okay, I got a cornerstone piece in Scotty
What
Barnes.
do you think of Kenny Atkinson?
I like Kenny, but he just got hired.
Yes.
So he just got hired from Atlanta. So I like that move. And Kenny was smart to not take the Hornets job. I mean, he was like, "Fuck, I don't know," and hey, he was right on that. Now Michael Jordan wants to sell the team, so he was very right on that. So good for him. But those two guys come to
What about
mind
Earl Watson?
in college. You got Earl Watson again. I want somebody that's
been a
that's
star.
that's earned it. You know what I mean? Like that's
I think Earl
coached it.
Watson's earned it more than
Right,
Penny
right.
Hardaway and Jawan Howard.
I
Unless,
don't
of
know.
course, your
I
plan
don't.
is to like
Well,
sign
look,
Jawan and then draft
Juwan
his son.
Howard coached for a while with Miami as an assistant coach. He took
Fair.
the job at Michigan, and he's won. So obviously he's coaching his son, I believe, which is why he hasn't left.
Hmm.
But besides that incident, if you take that off, he's the hottest coach that people want to hire. Period. But that happened, and like the narrative changed. You're like,
Would
oh
you
shit.
touch Ime Udoka right now?
Oh shit. That's something I would consider crazy enough to say. I don't want people. Oh, Leo's a misogynist. Hey man, that guy again, man. I would consider it. He's definitely one of those guys. I need to know more about, what really happened. I just think the whole situation was messy, But
Yeah, I mean, look, at the end of the day, like, I mean, let's just get all controversial now, Like, let's bring in Ime Udoka, let's sign Josh Primo, and let's call it a day. I want to change the team's identity that badly that
Penny
I'm
Hardaway
willing.
would unlock Scotty, by the way. That
You think
that would
so?
be crazy. Yes.
I mean, look,
That's Penny. He's Penny.
you want to unlock Scotty Barnes? Hire Leonard Hamilton. Honestly, when I think of coaches and players that just
He don't
fit,
want to come here or to the Raptors. He's not leaving
he's just
Florida.
why?
Yeah,
His team was trash this year.
bro. When you're at Florida State, you're older type of dude. Like that's just what you do.
I think
Florida's just more
this
comfortable. You know what I mean? Like it's like the
yo,
lifestyle, like
come on,
less
Florida.
pressure.
Okay, this is no shade to Florida. I know a lot of friends from
Don't
Florida.
say it.
Scotty Barnes
Don't
is from
say
Florida.
it.
Toronto's better than Florida. I'm
Don't
saying it.
say it. Oh
Toronto's
man,
better than Florida.
it's probably a more beautiful city, but I don't know about better.
It's better. It's better, bro. It's better.
It's more expensive.
So what? Okay, South Beach. Okay,
Besides South Beach,
besides South Beach,
Florida's
come
beautiful.
on.
Florida's beautiful.
I've been to Florida plenty of times in my life, including my childhood, which was, spent
Yeah.
at Epcot Center and Disney World and, the Tower of Terror and all that shit. Okay. Look, if
He ain't coming to Canada from Florida. Like if you said the Heat job, be like okay, but
you
and
just said he's an OG. He's an old dude. Like, what the
Okay.
fuck does he got to do with South Beach? He's not,
Leonard. Let's see how old he is.
he's in his
Leonard
50s. I think he's in his 50s or
Leonard
early 60s.
Hamilton. He is 74, bro.
What? No.
Jesus Christ. Yeah, he ain't going to Florida. He ain't going.
Never mind. I take it back. I didn't know that. Holy shit.
1948.
Dude
He
was-
has been at FSU for 16 12 of his 19. He's been with them 19 seasons.
Yo, honestly, bro, I knew he could be 60, but 74 is killing me. What?
That's why I asked him like how old is he?
Oh my God.
Yeah.
Wow.
He ain't
Okay.
going there.
Okay. But for real, like, I mean, I look around a guy like Earl Watson.
Yeah.
I think he makes sense. I think he would have the players' respect. He's played in the NBA. A lot of people have said that he would be a good idea. I think David Thorpe has mentioned Earl Watson specifically as a good Nick Nurse replacement. I don't know if Nick Nurse makes it past this year. I understand championship, but Tampa happened under his watch. This has happened under his watch. This is a team that's way too talented to play this way.
Shaka Smart. Hell no.
Yeah. Oh, do you know what's messed up? Do you know how old Jack Armstrong is? Someone Google this because you will be shocked out of your minds. I was shocked when I found out how old Jack Armstrong was. Someone says 66. He is not 66, bro.
He was born in 63.
Yeah.
He's 60? He looks hella old. He's not even that old.
Jack Armstrong has looked like he's in his 50s since he was like 38.
Oh my gosh. Yeah, he
Yeah.
looks like he's like 74.
Shit. Yeah.
But he's 60.
So it's like he's the anti Leonard Hamilton.
Well, he's aged not the right way.
Yo, honestly, Daryl was saying earlier that he respects who's respecting De'Aaron Fox for not drinking.
Hmm.
Drinking's gonna age you badly, bro.
Yeah.
Drinking ages you hard. Um,
Yeah.
yeah.
D Fox looks super young too. He just had his baby too.
Star HD saying, "Did dude admit he was wrong about Fox?" Oh, this is like old receipt shit. Yeah, I'll admit it. I was wrong. I was wrong. I was wrong. I was wrong for sure. For sure. Like last year, Leo and I did a live where we ranked out the top 25 players under 25 or
He
whatever.
had him like 22, huh?
I had him like 22nd. I mean, we did the exact. And again, based on potential, if the same thing happened today, I'd probably put him like 10, 12, something like that. I put him higher, basically. I wouldn't put him 22. That was criminal. I had Cade over him. I wouldn't put Cade over him today.
Yuck.
So, yeah. Yeah. So, I mean, look, it's been an interesting chat, sort of to extrapolate and sort of get your thoughts on what's gone right and what's gone wrong for the Kings and the Raptors inversely, specifically. And I'm looking forward to seeing what the Kings turn into in the playoffs. I'm really interested to see
Me
if
too.
offense. It's almost like an experiment, like both the Raptors and the Kings are very strange teams to me because they're very imbalanced. The Kings are imbalanced in the sense that they are all offense, very little defense,
Yeah.
apart from the fourth quarter. The Raptors are imbalanced in that they're absolutely zilch, the worst offense ever, or very close to it. Terrible paint defense, but somehow they win the possessions battle every single night and they rack up all these steals and crazy offensive rebounds. And you guys know, like you should know, Domontas Sabonis had how many turnovers against us? Like 12, like something crazy like that, or 9. So these are very imbalanced teams. I'm very curious to see which
But the
imbalanced
Raptors are
team.
14th in defensive rating though. It's not like they're great.
Exactly. Exactly. They're middle of the pack offensively, they're middle of the pack defensively, but there's a part of defense that they're great at, and then there's a part of offense that they're terrible at. And I'm just like, this is interesting because both these teams seem to be very imbalanced, right? But one of them is just so much easier to watch and so much easier to root for. And I think like this light the beam stuff to anyone, who has like 10 minutes now to just go and Google like, hey, what are they talking about? Kings offense, this, that. Plenty of videos on the internet. Go check out some fan videos from just the atmosphere around the Kings this year. Go check, some of the locker room videos that the Kings have released, this year. I think it's just been such a beautiful thing to watch. And honestly, one of the things that is hopefully for franchises like the Toronto Raptors right now, that sounds so weird to say. I can't believe we're having this discussion. This was me last year. This is how y'all need to build. Y'all need to build with accountability and defense, and y'all need this and y'all need that. And now our roles have completely reversed. And now, it's hilarious. But this is actually like hope for teams like Indiana, teams like that have been missing the playoffs for a while. Teams like Cleveland, I guess now they've already got Donovan Mitchell, but maybe in a few years this is hope for a team like the Utah Jazz or the Minnesota Timberwolves or I don't know, the Portland Trailblazers maybe. I don't know. There are teams that have just they've been out of it, right, for a bit.
Dude, I would love Mike D'Antoni on the Raptors. He would really unlock Scotty to a different fucking stratosphere that we haven't seen.
Mike D'Antoni.
D'Antoni would
I'd be open to
unlock
it.
him
I'd be open to it.
100%.
He would
Sam
preach
Cassell's
ball
another
movement.
guy. Sam Cassell's another guy. I actually like Sam a lot. He's a good guy. He's earned his stripes. For sure.
Yeah, I think Udoka, when you say Udoka, there's all this stir of emotions because of the recency bias of like he was just
100%.
at the finals and then he got fired. But yeah, you're right. Mike D'Antoni is a brilliant mind. I think he would command a lot of respect. In fairness, though, he was an assistant coach for that Brooklyn Nets disaster.
He left though. Like
He did leave.
he left before all that shit happened though. You know what I mean? Because he probably saw it happening. He's like, "Fuck this! I'm gonna leave before it like
And
gets
that's just his
worse."
boy.
Exactly, and he left to be like a what is he? What does Jerry West do again? He's just an advisor. Yeah, he wants to leave to be an advisor for somebody else. I don't even know who.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know. Maybe Maybe we need to explore some very out of the box options for head coaches. Michael Jordan, you going Magic? Magic Johnson. That would be funny. I know he
That would
wouldn't
be
do it,
funny.
but Magic Johnson coaching Scotty Barnes, like let's get real wild about it. DMX. Oh my God, I'm sorry.
That would be funny.
Rest in peace.
Magic Johnson would be sick.
I said DMX. Rest in peace, DMX. And because I was about to say Kobe Bryant, and then I was just like, don't say Mamba because he passed away. And
Yeah.
I said DMX for some reason. I'm
Yeah, he
just like,
still
what
passed
the fuck?
away. Yeah.
Dr. Dre. Can we
He's
get
a-
Dre? Can we get Dre to coach? Ice Cube, Big Three League. Let's get him to coach. Can we get Samuel L. Jackson to coach this team? Man, I'm tired of these motherfuckers. That'd be the greatest. That would be the greatest. Dennis, someone's saying Master P. Master P actually, tried out for the Toronto Raptors. Fun fact: do you know that? Fuck. Do you know that DeMar DeRozan was in a Master P video?
No.
Cookie Money.
I like DeMar. I know Raptor fans have a bad image of him, but I think DeMar really elevated his game when he went to the Spurs, obviously last year. But I think it changed the way he like plays in the way. Like he's still the same player, but he's better. Like he's gotten better as he's aged in a weird way.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? Like, and I was like the biggest DeMar hater, but I've come around to really acknowledge and appreciate his old school game for what it is.
Bro, I'm dying. Look at this comment.
Well, you're not wrong. You're not wrong. Can you imagine Scotty in that movie with Franco and and what's his name? It'd be funny as hell.
Yeah, that would be.
Yeah.
So, I mean, look, out of the all kidding aside, I think this team needs accountability from their head coach, and I think they need strong leadership going forward. I would be very disappointed if they bring everything back together. But if there are some tweaks now, to get to the final question, which was, do you see any players around this league that really feel like the Raptors could really use that guy? Like a Markelle Fultz, a Jalen Suggs. I'm just naming Orlando Magic guys right now. But like someone that you think, I've watched this player play and they feel like perfect plug and play for Raptors. Sorry to put you on the spot, but like,
what if they go after a guy like Cam Johnson from the Nets? They trade for him.
he would be a dream.
I
He would
think
be such a dream.
I think he has a lot of potential. Everybody has potential. What I'm saying is like the upside of a Cam Johnson, on the Raptors. Like if you trade like a sign in with, there's no point for them to do a sign and trade for Gary Trent. You know what I mean? Like that'd be kind of stupid. But something like that. Obviously there were teams that offered like 4 or 5 first round picks for Mikal Bridges right after he got traded.
What?
Yeah.
4 or 5 first round picks for Mikal Bridges?
Yep.
No.
That's what JJ Redick said. And
Wait okay, like okay, when people say first round picks, like they're talking like bullshit protected picks that belong to like contenders.
Yeah.
Yeah, they're not talking like high lottery picks and shit like that, or picks that are ever expected to convey. Like there's so many picks out there that have been traded that if you don't convey for like 2 years, they turn into multiple second
rounds. Yes.
Top 20 protected.
Those types of picks.
Fuck that. Top.
Yeah.
Okay, Mikal Bridges is better than that. Like when people are saying, "Oh, OG Anunoby for 3 picks," I'm like, "What 3 picks, bro?" Because there are like.
Who would you rather have, OG or Mikal?
I plead the fifth. I
think I was set on OG for like ever, and now that I know, obviously recency bias, but
as a person, like I think they're both great. Like,
I think they're both great.
Really, really good people. Good people. Like my comment to that would be, why not both? Trade everything you can for Mikal Bridges and keep OG Anunoby and Scotty Barnes. Now I can have a team that I really.
So if you're the Kings, would you rather have OG or Mikal? That's the question for you.
Where's Mikal's defense this year? I know last year he was absolutely elite.
Fucking elite. So to me, and I know people might think I'm crazy, but I think the Kings are an OG or a Mikal away from being in the finals.
I don't think that's that crazy.
I don't think it's crazy at all because we don't need a bunch of like 6'9" defensive stalwart style players. All we need is that dude that can guard the other team's best player at an elite level. Because
I think you're still
our
a
offense
center.
will like make up for it.
Yeah, so Mikal Bridges, I know you don't like crafted, but they have him as a 65th percentile per crafted
Well, let's
defensive
see.
plus minus.
I'll check on the index.
OG's 82nd. So honestly, man, I'm saying the difference isn't that far off, but the offensive difference is enormous. Shot quality, true shooting percentage, free throw rate, load, creation, portability, passer rate, everything is in Mikal Bridges' favor. So offensively, Bridges. So in terms of who would be better fit on the Kings, OG, because he would give you less of what you already have and more of what you don't have, which is defense and versatility. Also, OG can really guard 1 through 5. Mikal Bridges cannot guard 1 through 5.
Yeah, he can guard 1 through 3 at a very high level.
Yeah, a lot of guys can do that. 1 through 3 at a very high level. Okay, that's fair. I don't.
So offensive impact a B, and then defensive impact a B plus. On B-ball index. Let me see what his perimeter defense is.
I think like last year he led the league in distance traveled on defense. So there was like a component of like very hard work, and he was also like he was suffering from a little bit of that Scotty Barnes, OG Anunoby syndrome, where he always
Yeah,
had the
he's
hardest
not
matchup.
great. He ranks in the 72 percentile on ball perimeter defense, which is interesting because you would think it'd be better.
It's not. You know who's taken a really major step up
Let me see,
on the
OG.
defensive end this year? Anthony Edwards. He has been so good. So right now, Mikal Bridges is about equivalent to Scotty Barnes as a perimeter defender. So just to give you an idea, and OG Anunoby is better than Scotty Barnes.
OG's
So,
a B plus at 80th percentile. So
yeah, but also in fairness, the stat is not properly accounting for the fact that OG leads the league in matchup difficulty. He literally has the hardest job in the world on defense.
yeah, that's true.
So for him to be 80th percentile, honestly, first team all defense is totally within the realm of possibilities. I think the best defender in the league is probably Jaren Jackson, personally. But I think OG's like top 7.
I think
top
Marcus
8.
Smart, watching Marcus Smart live yesterday or the day before, I was very impressed with his instincts defensively to break
Yeah.
up plays. Like, and this is the King you're talking about. Like, that motherfucker was reading everything. I was just like, bro, he's so good.
Mm-hmm.
He's like, him and Drew Holiday are just so. I can make an argument that Drew Holiday is the best defender in basketball, but
He's very good.
I don't care what the analytics say. When I watch him play specifically, isolated,
They're very
like
for him.
he's so good.
Drew Holiday is amazing per the analytics.
Oh, I haven't looked at him, but I'll look it up and let me see. Holiday, Drew is. Why is it taking so long? Let's see. Drew Holiday is
92nd percentile per defensive crafted plus minus.
Jesus. That's good.
Yeah. 79th percentile in deflections, 88th percentile in versatility. Yeah, and he's a great rebounder for a guard as well. He's
Yeah.
great. And in terms of defensive matchups, he spends time guarding every position. He guards small forwards, shooting guards, point
He guards
guards,
everybody.
power forwards. He even spends some time guarding centers, which is crazy when you think about it.
Offensive impact A, defensive impact A minus, playmaking
He's
A
incredible.
plus, 3-point A, finishing A plus. God diggity, the guy is a beast. Let me see.
So Gregory's asking, where does Kawhi rank as a defender these days?
Perimeter defense is 94th percentile, so
Kawhi?
pretty high. No, Drew Holiday.
Yeah. No, Kawhi, but to Greg, Kawhi is still a very good defender. He's not the defensive player of the year defender that he was before, but he's very good.
94th percentile on ball defense for Drew Holiday. Can anybody guess in the comments where De'Aaron Fox is on ball perimeter defense? You guys got 3 seconds. A, B, or C?
B.
Rob, B?
You're gonna say A. I know you're saying A. There's no reason you'd bring this up if it wasn't an A. I know you way too well.
A minus. He's in the 87th
You're
percentile.
like a proud dad, you know, like that's what you are. My boy dear, he got an
I knew
A
he was
on
capable of this
he got
shit.
an A
Like,
on his defensive assignment. The teacher even said so. He was incredible. So to anyone out there, this is Kawhi's defense
let
this
me see
year per
Kawhi.
crafted. He's been great. So Kawhi is an incredible defender per crafted's analytics.
A minus defensive impact, and his perimeter defense
Yeah. So
is
per the
he's
analytics,
terrible. He's a 56th percentile, C plus
on what?
perimeter.
Kawhi?
Yeah, but his impact is an A minus.
Well, yes. So the rim defense, deflections, defensive rebounding are all in
Yeah,
his
like his
favor.
steals, deflections, yeah, all that's in his favor. Let me see.
Versatility is heavily in his favor, and impact. So his crafted defensive plus minus is 1.6. That is incredible. It's slightly below Jakob Poeltl, but there's no Raptors that rank higher than him other than Jakob Poeltl and I believe Christian Koloko. Let me just check.
Yeah, his defensive RPM is A, 92nd percentile. His defensive Raptors an A minus, 89th
Yeah.
percentile.
Chat, like, let us know. We'll close this show out in about 3, 4, 5 minutes. I don't know, but let us know if you have any questions, analytics related. Now that you have us both on, like, if you have any basketball related questions, we're happy to just take on a couple of questions.
It is
before we wrap
interesting
it
though,
up.
like he's so good defensively, but his perimeter defense is taking such a slight, because he used to be so good on the perimeter. So he's in the 56th percentile now. I wonder if it's injuries.
Koloko is 89th percentile. So he and Jakob are the best. And Koloko in terms of block percentage is 99th percentile in the NBA. Rim frequency 97th percentile. Rim defense 89th percentile. Yo, you got a absolute steal here. Like, he's so good at the things he's so good at, and he's so bad at the things he's so bad at. His entire chart is all red and green.
Would you rather have DeJounte Murray, Drew Holiday? Drew Holiday, 100%.
DeJounte's one of my favorite players in the league, and even I would say Drew Holiday by far.
And I love DeJounte Murray too. That man's a highlight man, so very marketable.
Short answer, teacher Mike, yes. I don't know if that's a rhetorical question.
Yes, I want 5 playmakers if possible.
Yeah, everyone should aim for
But I'll
that.
take DeJounte too. OG can take centers, yeah. If you build around the core of OG. Oh, talking about Precious Achiuwa, I know there was a clip on Twitter about a caller that called in and said about if you replace Precious with Siakam, and you're like, but the guy was so adamant. I don't know who it was, but it was on Twitter.
Oh no, someone posted it on Twitter?
Yeah.
Oh no. They killed me, didn't they?
No, they killed the guy. The guy that was saying the caller that was.
It was Coach Mo. It was definitely Coach Mo. Oh no, I did not know about this. I have not been on Twitter all day.
He said that they would be a lot better, right, defensively.
Mm-hmm. They would be 100%. They'd be better defensively.
But did he say that they would be a better team as well in that clip? I forget.
I hope not.
Yeah. So, I'm not a big Precious fan. I'll be very transparent about it. I think there's a lot of guys that are similar to him in terms of just like overall. Like, I think he has a bad feel for the game offensively. I think he's very replaceable. Now, I would love him off my bench if he has a guy like Malik Monk that can feed him in the pick and roll. But I'm not like, oh my God, heads and shoulders over this guy. Like, I'm not gonna give up anything for him. He has potential, but so do a lot of guys. Like, and no, I wouldn't replace him for Siakam. Like, I don't think Siakam's a top 15 player, but I also don't think. I think there's levels to this, and I'd much rather have Siakam. Obviously, Siakam commands $40 million almost, or on his new contract, he will. So those are things to consider. But yeah, Siakam is, and people thought I was great, and Raptor fans still think he's like top 10, top 15, which is fucking crazy to me. But Siakam is more so top 20 to me. but that's just my opinion.
Top 20 player in the NBA?
Yes,
He is not.
he is a top 20 player in the NBA.
No, he's not.
What is he? 25?
It's close. 25, 30. He's fallen off a lot.
Oh, there you
He's
go.
having one of his worst seasons
I
ever.
thought
He
you were gonna
started
say.
out.
I thought you were gonna say like 16. I'm like, oh hell no. I was gonna say, okay. So now you're on my page where I'm like, I really like him, but if he's your go-to guy, you're fucked.
Yeah.
Like if he's like your second, third best player, you're in good hands.
Yeah, where do people find these tweets about me? I don't know where I'm a novice. I'm a Twitter novice. I have no idea how Twitter works. I
I'll send
honestly,
it to you. I'll send it to you.
So like, I mean, because K Money, who's a frequent, he mentioned me in a tweet, and he said, I see a lot of Pensari hate on my timeline. I'm like, where is this? Someone said I said some shit the other day. I look for it. I look for the word. I don't see it anywhere. Someone's saying this. They pulled
Yeah,
this old.
Twitter's weird.
Is there like a world on Twitter that just exists outside of me because I blocked these people or they blocked me? I have no idea. But I don't see it, and you know what? Maybe my life is better off that way. I don't need to be on it. I don't need it. Look, I'm gonna take the Kawhi route. You know, the Kawhi route. Kawhi's not on social. Some people think I'm an asshole because I don't respond to stuff on Twitter. I don't see it, bro. I don't see it. I don't know how to manage my notifications. I don't see the shit. Sometimes I'll look in my inbox and it'll be like 18 messages.
Yeah.
Don't know. Don't see it.
Sheridan Forbes says trading while the value is high. Trade and fire everyone. Stop the emotional attachment. Dude, that's how I felt for like such a long time about all players, like including Tyrese and Halliburton. I was like, if this move is going to make you better, just fucking do it. Fans fall in love with potential all the time. Like this whole notion of the Celtics not trading Jaylen Brown.
We have temporarily lost Leo. Hopefully we'll get him back. I don't know if his camera died. I have a feeling his camera died. Because he's still here, but his camera has gone to green screen. That's funny. Okay, well, while we wait for Leo to work through his technical difficulties, I think this is as good a time as any to we got Leo back.
Can you hear me?
I can.
But it's obviously is the audio's not the same anymore. It's not the mic or my thing died. Just
camera died?
Yeah, everything died.
Everything died.
Yeah, except for my laptop camera.
That's so funny. Okay.
But just to finish that point, that year when they had a chance to get Kawhi Leonard for Jaylen, it didn't happen. The Raptors took advantage. They traded away DeMar DeRozan. They won a championship. This is the type of shit I'm talking about, to where, yeah, they're in good hands now with Tatum and Brown. And not even because Brown wants out, but the reality is, if you had a chance to get a top 5 player in Kawhi, just fucking do it. Don't stop overthinking these things. You know what I'm saying? Like just do it. Fans get attached to just fan favorites, to potential, to upside. Like that shit don't matter. It's about winning championships.
Okay, devil's advocate, do you think the same theory applies to Scotty? Like, what do you say to a fan who says, y'all could have had KD if you just didn't get so emotionally attached to Scotty Barnes? And now Scotty Barnes is having a sophomore slump and everyone's down on him. I'm not down on him. I still think he's going to be a superstar.
Not down on him at all.
Exactly, but some people are. So what do
I
you
would
say
have
to that
traded
person?
Siakam.
Yeah, anyone would have traded Siakam.
Not at that point. At that point, they were like, "Oh my God, we need to put KD with Siakam." I was like, "No, you got to trade Siakam and potentially OG."
Look, honestly, if you're the Nets and I call you and I say, "Hey, I want Kevin Durant," you say, "I want Scotty Barnes." I say, "Okay, you can't have Scotty and you can't have Kevin Durant. Sorry, you can't have Scotty and you can't have Pascal Siakam." They're gonna be like, "Then fuck off." There's not going to be any conversation after that.
Well,
What's the conversation going to be? We'll take OG, Gary, and every pick you have for the next 85 years? Maybe. Like Cam Johnson.
They got Mikal Bridges, though. They got
Mikal, Cam, and 4 picks.
So
you don't have anyone on your roster that's even close to Cam. Gary Trent Jr. is not Cam Johnson. And OG Anunoby may be on par in terms of value with Mikal Bridges.
Before this season started, right? Not knowing how shitty VanVleet was going to be, You don't think Siakam, Van Vliet, and two picks get it done?
Oh, we're talking about a different thing because and first of all, no, I don't. Because I don't think anyone's stupid enough to. This is the thing I say about Fred VanVleet. Sort of started it earlier, and then I think I deviated on to what his cousin said or something. I think that this guy honestly believes he's a max player, and he's trying to play like a max player right now. He's gunning for his offense, taking a ton of shots. If I'm the Orlando Magic, or if I'm, any team with cap space, I don't know off the top of my head which teams have cap space. Do you? Do you know any other teams with cap space this year?
I forget.
Hang on. Teams with
I
cap.
take Siakam for Miles Turner. God, y'all have changed y'all like feelings real quick. I mean, I've been telling you guys this. That Siakam is not a top 15. Apparently, Rob is like, fuck it. He's not even top 25. It went south real quick.
Yo, we started at he's firmly top 20, but he's not top 5. He's not top 10. No, sorry. At the beginning of the
Hella
year,
Raptor fans like he's top 10. I'm like, are you smoking cocaine or something?
okay, the Rockets, the Spurs, and the Magic. These are the three teams with cap space. Ironically, they're also teams with massively high picks. Smart, smart. So these three teams can actually turn it around really quickly. So team number 1, the San Antonio Spurs. Team number 2, the Houston Rockets. Team number 3, the Detroit Pistons. Team number 4, the Orlando Magic. Team number 5, the Indiana Pacers. Team number 6, the Utah Jazz. And the Charlotte Hornets. And the OKC Thunder. The OKC Thunder have 25 million in cap space. The Memphis Grizzlies. The Grizzlies can still have close to maximum cap space in 2023, despite extending Ja Morant to a maximum extension. If he qualifies for the 30% maximum contract, the Grizzlies could generate around 25 million cap space. That projection includes their first round pick being in the low 20s. They could generate even more if they were to trade Tyus Jones. It could easily be over the cap if they extend Dylan Brooks or Steven Adams. So if they do operate for with cap space, it would make sense for them to pursue a starting center like Miles Turner or Jakob Poeltl. Wow. Yeah, so those are the teams. And ironically, of those teams, who do you think Fred VanVleet fits on? I think he fits on Houston. They desperately need a point guard. I think
He's
he
not a
fits.
point guard though. Like in theory, he is, but like
Yeah, but the Houston Rockets are terrible and they're stupid and they'll do this themselves. Does he fit Utah? I think he does.
he
Does
fits
he
that team more
fit
just because.
Indiana?
No, hell
No,
no.
no, he
I mean,
doesn't.
if he's willing to come off the bench with Tyrese,
Or start with Tyrese.
I rather start Nembar. What's
Me
his
too.
name?
Andrew Nembhard.
Nembar.
The Detroit Pistons. Does he fit them with Cade, with Killian, that backcourt, with Jaden? I think they have too many backcourt players personally, but maybe they'd be willing to trade someone because Dwayne Casey has a relationship with him. The San Antonio Spurs, the Houston Rockets. So Houston, yes, I think he fits. What do you think?
Houston?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I mean, like on a 2-year deal. Like if
Okay.
he wants $30 million, I'll give him 2 years 60.
Wow. Okay. And then the Spurs. I think he sort of fits with the Spurs. I think
No, because
he's.
I think because I rather have Jones,
Hmm.
which I like a lot, by the way.
Yeah, so I mean he's got a market. So he hasn't completely jammed himself up to okay, it's Orlando or Toronto or bust. He'll have options. But I'm looking at all these teams and I'm saying which of these teams is looking for him to come in and be a 25 point per game scorer? None. They got Jalen Green in Houston and Jabari Smith. Like I don't think they're looking at him as, oh, you're a bigger priority to us than Jalen Green, Alperen Şengün, and Jabari Smith. Like we're still trying to get those guys going. I look at I look at the Orlando Magic. Cap space, yes, but they have Paolo, they have Franz. Both players are very good, and I could argue Markel Fultz is pretty good too. Jalen Suggs is a developing prospect. You have all these guys, and in
Yeah.
all honesty, you could make a case that if he continues to play this way, some teams could look at him and say, Well, if you're not willing to defer to Scotty Barnes and OG Anunoby, what makes us think you're going to defer to Paolo and Franz? So if I was his agent, I would tell him, take a backseat to these guys, show me that you can make them better, because I'll tell you right now, Kyle Lowry made a lot of money, a lot more money than Fred VanVleet ever will make, by the way, in his career, despite a rising cap, because he showed an ability to do that. Because he showed a willingness to sacrifice, because he showed a willingness to be a team player, because he showed a willingness to fit next to DeMar, then fit next to Kawhi,
Yeah.
then fit next to Pascal. I mean, Kyle Lowry, I mean, you could make a very realistic case that he's a better player than Pascal, he's a better player than DeMar. In terms of impact, he was. But he was willing to let his limitations physically be accepted. And he was willing to play second fiddle to those guys. He was willing to take fewer shots to get them set up. And I think that allowed a team like Miami to come in and say, well, he could do that for Jimmy and he could do that for Tyler Hero. Yeah. He's not coming in with an ego and saying, I have to take like 50 shots. You know what I mean? So I feel like if Fred VanVleet really wants to take like the bird's eye view, bird's eye perspective on this, don't follow in the footsteps of Dennis Schroeder and Isaiah Thomas and Latrell Sprewell and a host of other guys who are way more talented than you. And Bonzi Wells, right? That contract that he rejected. A lot of dudes, right? And I'm just saying, there's a lot of free agents in the this summer. There's a lot of guys who are slated to become free agents. And you haggle, you start, overpricing yourself, you might end up taking a 1-year mid-level.
Yeah. So let's wrap this up real fast. Just to close my thoughts, I think someone asked how far do I think the Kings will make it.
Yes.
I would say, depending on what they get in the first round, will be extremely indicative of how far they get. So I've been saying if they get Golden State, with the healthy Andrew Wiggins, healthy Steph, I think they lose to Golden State in the first round just because they have that championship DNA. If they get anybody like Dallas, I think it'd be Minnesota. They beat the Lakers, it'd be fun as hell. I would love the Lakers just to beat them. But yeah, if they Golden State, I wouldn't like it. But then they would face, if they get 3 or number 2, I prefer number 2 because I'll have home court against Memphis.
Mm-hmm.
In that second round. And I think they can beat Memphis. And then you're in the Western Conference Finals against probably Denver. So
I don't know. The West is so complicated for me this year. They're all bunched together, and there's a lot of parity. And I could easily make a case that I think the Memphis Grizzlies are better than all those teams you just named. But then they're in a collapse situation with their off-court issues, and then I could make a case the Golden State Warriors are scary. But then they haven't been scary this year. They've been pretty bad. And I could also make a case the Lakers have played a lot better since adding D'Angelo Russell, but then they haven't had LeBron James back. So it's like a lot of incomplete questions, but there's nobody that sticks out to me on the Lakers side. Ironically, in the East, there was always the Cleveland Cavaliers early on in the season. There was the Boston
They're the
Celtics.
best team on defense, which is fucking crazy.
It's not that crazy. Evan Mobley and Jared Allen is just insane.
Yeah, but their guards have played well, and that was the biggest question mark. And you can't we all thought about that. I was like, well,
yeah.
And both guys have been solid as hell.
I mean, it shows you that, this idea of we're not going to draft non-plus defenders. Well, apparently they're able to make it work with Darius Garland, Donovan Mitchell backcourt because they have a scheme that hides them well enough. We'll see if it stays in the playoffs. But I don't know. I don't know which team is sticking out to me at all in the East or the West as oh, that's for sure going to be in the finals. You could say Milwaukee, but then Middleton's defense has fallen off so much. So I don't know.
Oh, I love Rob VanVleet's jersey behind him, by the way.
Yeah, great. Thanks a
All
lot,
right, guys.
I can't believe that. Anyways, okay. Have a good one. Peace. And guys, please check Leo's channel, Basketball Zone. They just passed 10,000 subscribers. Huge milestone. And please subscribe to Pensari Basketball if you haven't already. Leo releases a whole bunch of video breakdowns and stuff. Honestly, your channel has taken it to such a next level, recently, and I really admire that. And I think the views are showing it. The lives you're doing, the breakdowns, the analytics, it's really cool stuff. So he talks Raptors over there, he talks Kings, he talks NBA trends, just a lot of cool stuff. So follow Pensari Basketball and also follow Basketball Zone on all the socials. All right. Alrighty, Leo.
Thanks,
Thanks a
bro.
lot for doing this, man. And let's do like a weekly show or something around the NBA or something. Someone
Sounds good.
suggested that would be fun. All right, cheers, man.
All right, brother.
Have a good one.
Appreciate it.
See ya. Bye.